So tonight, Toronto has its second chance to wrap up the series, and they turn to David Cone. When they acquired him from the Mets in late August, it was with this game really in mind. They thought he was the man who could put them over the hump in their quest for their first world championship.
And how did the Atlanta Braves beat him? They are patient at the plate and aggressive on the bases. Control problems for David Cone, and look for the Braves to run and run a lot.
He'll be opposed tonight by Steve Avery, and here is our Jim Cox.
Thanks, Sean. Steve Avery in Game 3 had probably the best curveball he's had in a long time. And the challenge when you face the same lineup 4 days later is if you don't have that same stuff, plan B. You might see him throw a few more changeups and fastballs. Blue Jays are good fastball hitters. As Tim said, David Cone tried to strike hitters out with the first pitch in his last start. You can't do that. He has to get him in no ball, 2 strike counts. Then he can put him away with that splitter or slider, and that's when he dominates the game. Play ball, Sean.
Thank you, Jim. Steve Avery getting ready to go to work against the Toronto lineup that has Devon White leading off in center field. Roberto Alomar at second base, batting third, and at first base again tonight, Joe Carter. The cleanup hitter, right fielder Dave Winfield. Candy Maldonado gets the start in left field. Kelly Gruber bats sixth at third base. The catcher is Pat Borders, batting seventh. The shortstop Manuel Lee hits eighth, and batting ninth, the pitcher David Cone.
The defense for the Atlanta Braves. He did not start a League Championship Series game. This is his 4th start in the World Series. Deion Sanders in left field. Otis Nixon will be the center fielder, and David Justice the right fielder. Harry Pendleton on the infield at third. Jeff Blauser at shortstop. Mark Lemke will be the second baseman. Sid Bream the first baseman. And once again, Damon Berryhill behind the plate.
It is another delightful night in the capital of Georgia, 67 degrees. The game time temperature, a light breeze out of the west, and the forecast is for clear skies throughout the night. And the umpires working this one. John Shulock of the American League behind the plate. Jerry Crawford at first base. Mike Riley at second. Joe West at third. Dan Morrison along the left field line, and Bob Davidson of the National League in right. Another sellout crowd on hand, as you might expect, as Pat O'Brien told you. 5,000 Braves fans were at the airport at the wee small hours of the morning after Game 5, when the Braves returned at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And they're on the feet all over the ballpark as this one is about to begin. Game 6 of the 1992 World Series, and Devon White will get it started. He's 4 for 21. And here's the first pitch of the night from Steve Avery. Fastball high and away, and we're underway. White has 4 hits in the World Series, but 3 of them came in Game 4. Line to left, and it falls in for a hit in front of Deion Sanders. So Devon White takes the second pitch of the night into left, and he's aboard with nobody out in the top of the first.
This game, more than any other game, matches 2 pitchers who have a very difficult time holding runners on. The home run ball has been prominent in the World Series up to now, but look for the running game in this game. Steve Avery, 42 stolen bases against him this year, the most of any National League pitcher, and David Cone with 49 against him.
Devon White has not stolen a base in the postseason. And Roberto Alomar looks at a ball. 1-0 on Alomar, who's just 2 for 18 in the series, and 0 for his last 6. Avery to first. White stole 37 bases during the regular season, was only thrown out 4 times, but in the playoffs against Oakland, he was 0 for 4 in attempting to steal. And he has not attempted a stolen base in the World Series, in large part because he hasn't been on. He's off with this pitch. Berryhill's throw, much too late. And Devon White has his first stolen base of the postseason, and the Blue Jays' 4th, without being caught in the World Series.
That high leg kick by Steve Avery, watch, allows Devon White a huge jump at first base, and Berryhill's throw, too late. No catcher will throw him out with that kind of jump.
corner. 2 balls and a strike on Alomar. Those were Alomar's numbers during the regular season. He was 4th in the major leagues and 3rd in the American League with runners in scoring position. Good job of hitting. You could see Alomar make the effort to slap the ball to the right side to move White to 3rd with 1 out. That'll bring up Joe Carter. He's 4 for 7 with 2 solo homers. One of those at the expense of Steve Avery in Game 3 at Skydome. The other was in Game 1 off Tom Glavine. The infield is in for Atlanta with White at 3rd and 1 out. Breaking ball in the dirt. Blocked by Berryhill. I believe I might have said Carter's 4 for 7 in the series. He is, of course, 4 for 17.
And a fine play by Damon Berryhill. You know, during this breaking ball, it looked like it hit the plate, or right next to the plate. And Berryhill with a nice block to save a run temporarily.
And another nice play to keep White at 3rd on another breaking ball that was short of the plate. 2 balls and no strikes.
It seems that managers in postseason play are more aware of playing the infield in early in the ball game. You don't often see a guy like Cito Gaston or Bobby Cox play the infield in the 1st inning, but we've seen it time and time and time again in postseason play.
As we said at the outset, this is still a do-or-die situation for Atlanta. They have to win this game or the season is over. The 2-0 pitch. Carter has more runs batted in than any player in baseball over the last 7 years. But only has 2 runs batted in this series, in large part because White and Alomar haven't been on base ahead of him. 3 balls and a strike. Carter will be followed by Dave Winfield. Now the 3-1 pitch. Line toward the gap in right center. Justice on the run. Can't play it. It's off his glove and behind him. White on to score. Carter into second, and the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
I wonder if he lost that ball in the lights. It appeared that he was drawing a bead on it. And then at the last minute, something happened. See, I think he lost that ball in the lights. I believe the ball hit the end of his glove. And it's going to be scored a double for Joe Carter, but that ball should have, at least it could have been caught. I think he lost the ball in the lights.
And they have changed the scoring to an error on Dave Justice, allowing Carter to reach second. As you noted, it should have been caught. So the error on the board for the Braves, the run on the board for the Blue Jays. Justice had his problems from time to time during the regular season with 8 errors.
Most of those errors, however, in fairness to David, came on throwing errors. A very strong throwing arm.
His first error of the World Series. Carter not charged with a time at bat. He is given credit for a sacrifice fly and an RBI. And he reaches on the error. He's at second with 1 out. And Dave Winfield at the plate. Winfield just 1 for his last 10.
He has never had an extra base hit in the World Series.
And he walks on 4 pitches. Not the worst thing that could have happened for Steve Avery with first base open, already behind in the count to Winfield. Now they set up the double play possibility. Carter at second, Winfield at first. 1 out, 1 run in the top of the first. pitching coach Leo Mazzoni on his way to the mound, and already there is action in the Atlanta bullpen.
Yeah, Avery falls behind Joe Carter 3-1, and then behind Dave Winfield 3-0. The early innings are not the times to pitch around hitters, and the reason, as you see Pete Smith up and throwing for Atlanta, the reason for that is if you pitch around hitters in early innings and then you get the long ball, well, the big inning could get you out of the game. That's why with a guy on second, first base open in the first through the fifth inning, usually you go after the guy. But Avery hasn't done that to Carter or Winfield.
He'll work next to Candy Maldonado. Maldonado only 1 for 13 in the World Series, but his one hit was the game-winning hit in the 9th inning of Game 3. Cito Gaston decided to go with Candy Maldonado tonight instead of John Olerud at first base, because Olerud did not have a very easy time when he faced Avery in Game 3. Check swing. That's a swing, says first base umpire Jerry Crawford, and the count is 0-2.
Jim Cott mentioning the curveball of Steve Avery. That's one of the reasons Olerud's out of there tonight. That was a tough pitch to Maldonado, but he clearly went through.
Olerud was 0 for 3 in Game 3 against Avery with 2 strikeouts. Softly hit towards short. Blauser to Lemke for the out on Winfield, the second out of the inning. Carter takes third on the play. First and third with 2 down as Maldonado reaches on a fielder's choice.
Fastball inside. Maldonado jammed, and Jeff Blauser and Lemke making sure of one.
Now the 6th batter of the first inning, Kelly Gruber, with Toronto leading 1-0. He's 1 for 15 in the World Series. His one hit, a home run off Steve Avery. You hear the boos for Gruber. That dates back to Game 2 when he caught the pop-up for the final out of the ball game and then did the tomahawk chop. And the fans roar with a bit more vigor as Gruber takes a called strike 1. Oh for 8 with runners in scoring position in the postseason, and overall Kelly is 3 for 37 in the playoffs and World Series combined. Two wins for the championship for the Braves, 1 win for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they lead 1-0 as they bat in the top of the first. To short, Blauser bobbles but recovers in time to force Maldonado and end the inning. 1 run in the first for the Blue Jays after half an inning. Toronto 1 and Atlanta coming up. Center fielder Otis Nixon leads off for the Atlanta Braves tonight, batting second in left field Deion Sanders. Terry Pendleton, the third baseman, hits third. The cleanup hitter, right fielder David Justice. Batting fifth at first base, Sid Bream. The shortstop Jeff Blauser hits sixth. Catching and batting seventh, Damon Berryhill. The second baseman, Mark Lemke, bats eighth, and hitting ninth, the pitcher, Steve Avery.
The defense for Toronto finds Candy Maldonado in left field. Devon White, who has made one remarkable play in this series, in center. Dave Winfield started 26 games in right field, and keep in mind that the Braves will try to run on Winfield's arm. Kelly Gruber at third base. Manuel Lee, the shortstop. Roberto Alomar at second base, and Joe Carter at first base. He has started only 6 games in the regular season there, but he did start 1 game at first base for Toronto. That was game 1, and Pat Borders behind the plate.
29-year-old David Cone on the mound, acquired on August 27th from the New York Mets in exchange for Jeff Kent and Ryan Thompson. Cone making his second appearance in this World Series. He had no decision in game 2. The come from behind win for the Blue Jays on Ed Sprague's home run. Control trouble plagued Cone in game 2. He walked 5 in 4 1/3 innings. Braves coming up for the first time tonight, trailing 1-0, and Otis Nixon leads off. Otis 6 for 21 in the World Series, and particularly hot of late. He's 5 for his last 9. He was 2 for 4 in Game 4 and 3 for 5 in Game 5. And Gruber in on the grass at third, respecting the bunt possibility. First pitch of the night from David Cone. Fastball high for ball 1. And a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike on Nixon.
David Cone's only loss to the Braves in this ballpark back on April 30th, 1990. 4-1 in this park.
Chopped to short to Manuel Lee. 1 out.
One and one in the league championship series. And then he worked 4 1/3 innings in Game 2 and walked 5. It is very, very important for David Cone to throw strikes. He walked more this year than he ever has, 111 during the regular season.
Deion Sanders hitting an even 500 in the World Series, 6 for 12. And he takes a strike. Deion got his first start in the World Series in Game 2 because of his success against David Cone in the past. He went 1 for 3 against Cone in Game 2 and is now 7 for 12 lifetime against him. Carter waves off Cone, 2 down. In the bottom of the first, the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
So David Cone staying ahead of the hitters so far. He is a very predictable pitcher in that if he's throwing strikes early, usually he sails through the middle innings. That's a gauge of David Cone. That's why it's important for him to stay ahead early in the ball game.
Terry Pendleton looked at a strike over the outside part of the plate. He's 5 for 21 in the World Series. 2 of those hits came in the last game, Game 5. 1 ball and 1 strike. Pendleton can keep the inning alive. David Justice would bat next. One ball and 2 strikes. This is the 46th World Series game, postseason game rather, for Terry Pendleton, second on the all-time list, behind Greg Nettles. Tomahawked into right center. That's a base hit. So the Braves have their first base runner with 2 outs in the bottom of the first.
We have mentioned several times that Bobby Cox is amazed at how Terry Pendleton can handle the ball eye high or right around the shoe tops. Well, this one is eye high.
Now David Justice. Ball 1 outside. Justice hit his first home run of this World Series in Game 5 off Jack Morris. He has only 3 hits through the first 5 games. Steve Avery allowed 1 earned run. It was an earned run charged to Avery in the top of the first, and now he's looking on as his teammates bat in the bottom of the first with 2 outs and a runner at first and a fly ball into shallow right center. Manuel Lee, the shortstop, who was shifted over to the right side of the infield, made the play to end the inning. After 1 in Game 6, the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
For every home run hit in the series, Coke and Major League Baseball will give $5,000 to build and renovate youth baseball fields through the Coca-Cola Homers for America program.
First pitch of the second, a strike to Pat Borders from Steve Avery. The Blue Jays batting with a 1-0 lead. They have the bottom third of their order coming up. Borders, then Lee and Cone. Line under the glove of Jeff Blauser. He had a chance to play it, but it eluded his grasp, and Pat Borders continues to sizzle. He's the leading hitter in the World Series, now 8 for 17, and he's hit in 14 consecutive postseason games.
The record held by Hank Bauer, who hit in 17 consecutive postseason games. Ricky Henderson with 15 in '89 and '90. Brooks Robinson and Pat Borders with 14. Wow.
It's distinguished company indeed for Pat Borders. So for the second time in as many innings, the Blue Jays have the lead man on. Manuel Lee bunts foul along first. Lee just 1 for 15 in the World Series, and 0 for his last 9. He's only hit a 5th inning single in game 2 off John Smoltz. No sign of a bunt that time as Lee took a ball high and tight. We heard the announcement for the Coca-Cola Homers for America program, and we're pleased to announce that Coca-Cola will indeed send along a check for $20,000 as a result of the grand slam hit by Lonnie Smith in game 5. And if there's another grand slam in this series, another $20,000 will go to the Homers for America program. David Justice, the catch in right for the first out of the second.
I thought Manuel Lee missed a sign, and that was a bunt sign. It's very unusual to bunt for a pitcher coming up because Manuel Lee, it's almost like a free at bat. If you don't move the runner over, then the pitcher has a chance to bunt him over.
He's hot. That's what 1 for 16 will do to you. David Cone 2 for 2 at the plate in game 2. During the regular season with the Mets, he had only 6 hits in 65 at-bats. Pretty good rip, but that one's out of play. I think we've got a sign that David Cone thinks of himself as a hitter, perhaps even first when he appeared at the press conference yesterday with batting gloves on each hand.
He likes to hit. He had 2 hits in game number 2. He was 2 for 2 in that game. And Cito Gaston saying that he could let him hit away. Deion Sanders almost on the left field line in left field.
That's the second and a double play ball. Empty booted it. Blauser still manages to turn it. 4-6-3, and that ends the inning. After an inning and a half in Atlanta, the Blue Jays won and the Braves nothing. Now a World Series moment from Game 6, 1947.
Joe leans in. Outfield deep, round foot left, the infield overshifted. Here's the pitch. Swung on, belted. It's a long one. Deep to left center. Back for Gianfrido. Back. He makes a one-handed catch and gets the bullpen.
Oh, Doctor, one of the trademark calls of the late, great Red Barber. Trailing 8-5 in that game. Joe DiMaggio appeared to be tying the game for the Yankees with a long drive to left, but it was pulled back by Al Gianfrido in what was to be Gianfrido's last major league game, as it turned out. Dodgers won that game 8-6 to tie the series at 3 games apiece, and the Yankees won the series 4-3. Sid Bream begins the Atlanta second. The Braves trailing 1-0 as they come to bat against David Cone. Bream, Blauser, and Berryhill to bat in the second. Bream 3 for 12 in the series, all 3 of his hits singles. He got off to a quick start in the postseason with a hot first couple of games of the playoffs against the Pirates, but he really hasn't made much noise since.
He has never driven in a run in the World Series, this being his 12th game.
And the all-time record for World Series starts from the start of a career without an RBI is shared by a couple of Hall of Famers. It's 13 World Series starts without an RBI. St. Louis outfielder Chick Hafey. Yankees pitcher Whitey Ford. 13 World Series games from the start of their careers without an RBI. The ball and 2 strikes on Bream. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
David Cone with a 2.83 earned run average this year, his best since 1988 when he was 20-3. You may remember that year that the Mets won the Eastern Division of the National League. David Cone was slated to pitch Game 2 against the Dodgers. He had conspired with a writer for the New York Daily News to write an article every day. And he wrote that article. It had some disparaging views of the Dodgers. They didn't take too kindly to it, and they beat David Cone in Game 2. And I'll tell you, I remember seeing him before that game, and he was visibly upset. And he has admitted that it was a mistake to come out with that article.
You wonder why players allow themselves to get into those situations in the postseason. Certainly they don't need the money to do guest columns or extra radio shows or television shows, but in this series we've seen an example of it. David Justice on Thursday morning before Game 5 said that he thought his teammates were flat in Game 4. It had the atmosphere of a spring training game, and Bobby Cox said that's a lot of baloney, and many of Justice's teammates were upset as well. That's ball 4. Bream battled all the way back from 0-2 to work Cone for the first walk of the night thrown by the Toronto right-hander.
We mentioned 111 walks for David Cone, and prior to this year, from 1986 to 1991, he had walked 3.1 batters per 9 innings, and in 1992 it was up almost a run or a walk a game, and in postseason plays averaged 5.5 per 9 innings.
Lead man on for Atlanta in the second. The Blue Jays lead 1-0. Jeff Blauser took a ball low and away. Blauser's 3 for 19 in the series. All 3 of his hits singles. High in the air and well hit toward the left field corner. Into the corner and up against the retaining wall. Maldonado couldn't play it. It was touched by a fan and then dropped down onto the playing field, a foul ball. Blauser has just 1 hit in his last 12 at-bats with runners on base.
He is awfully quick inside. He has very, very quick hands. The home run that he hit against Pittsburgh was an inside fastball by Doug Drabek. I don't think Cone intended for that fastball to be inside, but it was, and Blauser turned on it.
The 1-1 pitch. Line to left, a hit. Charged by Maldonado. Bream stops at second. First and second and nobody out as Jeff Blauser delivers his 4th hit of the World Series.
And that's another example of those quick hands. I mean, he turned on the fastball. That was an identical pitch as the one that he fouled off. Lightning fast.
That describes his hands and also the speed with which the ball went out to left. That was well struck by Blauser. 2 hits tonight for Atlanta. And now Damon Berryhill, who is 1 for his last 15, 2 for 18 overall with 10 strikeouts. He is approaching the World Series record for strikeouts in a single series.
Interesting that Toronto, even with the bottom of the order up, has Gruber in at third and Carter in at first base. You have Lemke and Avery coming up. Now, Avery's a pretty good hitter. I don't think Bobby Cox is going to be bunting in this situation.
Berryhill did not have a sacrifice bunt during the regular season, nor does he have one in the postseason. That's well hit to center field. Devon White spinning back to the warning track to make the catch. Bream tags and heads to third. Blauser remains at first. Berryhill hit it a long way, but to the deepest part of the ballpark. It's 4-0-2 to straightaway center. First and third with one down for Atlanta in the second.
Damon Berryhill's first major league home run was off of David Cone, and he sends Devon White back to the middle of the warning track to make this catch. And you had a side view of Greg Olson rubbing his cast. We mentioned on our last broadcast that he had had that cast removed last Monday. That has been their lucky cast so far.
Now Mark Lemke. 4 for 17 in the series, but he had 2 hits in Game 5. The tying run at third base with 1 out. 1-0 Toronto in the second. Sid Bream was the runner at third. Jeff Blauser at first. A foul ball off the foot of Lemke. For 20 in his career in the postseason with runners in scoring position is Mark Lemke. The 0-1 pitch. Fly ball, not particularly deep in left center. White makes the catch. Bream won't try it. He started down the line and then wisely thought better of it, as White's throw was right on the money to the cutoff man Carter, and with plenty on it.
Well, if that ball was hit just a bit deeper, I think Bream tries it. Devon White setting up in perfect position to throw, and he makes a good throw. But with the pitcher coming up next, I think a runner at third would have taken a chance had the ball been hit just a tad deeper.
So now the pitcher Avery with first and third and 2 down. In the second, the Blue Jays lead 1-0. Pat Borders going through the signs about what the Blue Jays will do should Blauser take off for second base. Late swing and 1 strike on Avery, who hit 171 during the regular season. He's not been to the plate in this World Series. His 1 start prior to tonight against Toronto was in Game 3 at the Sky Dome, where they used the DH. High and away, 1 ball and 1 strike. Avery has never had a hit against Cone. Both managers made the point before the game tonight that sometimes for a pitcher, particularly one who is occasionally plagued by control trouble, it can be difficult to throw a strike to the pitcher because you're just trying to steer it over. That was right down the middle. No problem throwing that strike. 1-2, the count on Avery.
Cone with 12 wild pitches on the season, 17 last year.
Blauser takes off. Avery strikes out, and that ends the inning. The Braves threaten but do not score. And after 2, it's Toronto 1 and Atlanta 0. Welcome back to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for Game 6 of the 1992 World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays lead this game 1-0. They lead the series 3-2. The top of the order in the third for the Blue Jays, Devon White. He took the second pitch of the ball game into left field for a base hit. He stole second and scored the only run of this game on a sacrifice fly by Joe Carter. Carter will hit third in this inning. Roberto Alomar between Carter and White. Steve Avery's 0-1 pitch. White tried to bunt and missed it.
Devon White, very hot in the American League Championship Series, batting .348. He, along with Alomar, combined for a .388 average, but his World Series numbers are down.
And he strikes out on 3 pitches. Berryhill has to throw down to first with a putout. 1 out in the third. That's the first strikeout of the night for Steve Avery.
At curveball, and a nice block by Berryhill. As White goes too far, the ball trickles out in front of home, and Berryhill throws him out.
Now Roberto Alomar, 2 for 19 in the series with his 0 for 1 tonight. Alomar has had particular trouble from the right side of the plate against the Braves left-handers. He's now 1 for 13, and he has been bothered by a sore left elbow and wrist. Hurt his elbow sliding in the home on the play in Game 2 in which John Smoltz tagged him. Alomar appeared to be safe but was called out. He was also hit by a pitch on the wrist. He's sore. That's to right and toward the gap and in for a hit. Justice over to cut it off, holding Alomar to a long single. So Roberto breaks an 0 for 7 drought with a 1-out base hit here in the third.
You look up and down both lineups, and you see some very paltry averages of all the hitters. Only Pat Borders is hitting over .235 in the Toronto lineup. They carried a .204 team average coming in.
Now Joe Carter, who knocked in the only run of this game with a sacrifice fly to right. He wound up reaching when David Justice couldn't snare the fly ball and was charged with an error. Alomar off with the first pitch. He'll steal it without a throw. Avery with the slow move to the plate and an off-speed pitch. And Alomar is 3 for 3 in stolen bases in the World Series.
Once again, the high leg kick. Watch Avery with that high power pitcher's leg kick, and Alomar stealing second without a throw. He has stolen third base once in this series, 12 times during the regular season, so he may not be through running yet.
10 for 10 in his career in the postseason, 8 for 8 this year. Carter to the right side. Another good piece of hitting by a Blue Jay hitter. This not as admirable because there was 1 out, but it did appear that Carter was trying to shoot that through the hole that he had on the right side. Alomar at third with 2 down for Dave Winfield, who walked his first time up. One 0 Toronto. The Blue Jays batting in the third. Toronto started the night hitting just .204 as a team through the first 5 games of the World Series. They already have 3 hits off Avery. Good off-speed breaking ball. Winfield was out ahead of it. Fly ball should be handled with ease by Justice. And it is. The Blue Jays strand a runner at third. We'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station. Welcome back to Atlanta, where the Blue Jays lead 1-0 as we head to the bottom of the third. As Pat O'Brien told you at the outset, the last 5 teams that have held a 3-2 World Series lead have all lost the World Series. Each of them has lost the final 2 games on the road. 1982, St. Louis came back to defeat Milwaukee. In 1985, it was Kansas City over St. Louis. In 86, the Mets over Boston. In 87, Minnesota over St. Louis. And last year, Minnesota went home and won the final 2 to beat Atlanta.
And at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, we have to turn back the clock, and that's what the Braves want to do. Turn back the clock and do what Minnesota did to them last year, winning the final games at the Metrodome.
Now Otis Nixon, the top of the order in the third for Atlanta. Nixon bounced to short his first time up. He slaps that one out of play. One fact working in the Blue Jays' favor as they try to overcome that recent history is that not once all year have the Blue Jays visited a city and left without winning at least one game there. They were not swept in any series this year during the regular season. They were the first team in 49 years to do that. And of course, they won one out of two in the first two games of the World Series here in Atlanta. 1-1 on Nixon. But something has to give because the last 5 World Series champions have all had the home field advantage in the playoffs and the World Series. That honor this year belongs to the Atlanta Braves. 2 balls and a strike on Nixon, then Deion Sanders and Terry Pendleton. The Braves threatened but did not score last inning. They got the first 2 men on, but they stranded Bream and Blauser.
When Otis Nixon leads off an inning for the Braves, he's their most important guy in the lineup. He's not with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position.
Chopped up the middle. Lee, nice play to his left for the first out of the inning.
He is similar to Devon White or Roberto Alomar with Toronto. So it's very, very important to get the first guy, especially when it's Otis Nixon. Nice play by Manuel Lee.
Now Deion Sanders, who bounced to the first baseman Carter unassisted his first time up. Swung at a ball out of the strike zone. 0-1 on Sanders. Nixon the first out of the third. The Blue Jays lead 1-0. Deion has been sniping off and on at Braves general manager John Schuerholz. But Schuerholz was the first to say yesterday that you can see the excitement level of the Braves ball club rise when Sanders is in there. 1-2.
That's what gave Deion his first opportunity to play because David Cone was pitching. He almost hit a ball out of the ballpark his first start in the World Series. That was game 2. That was after not starting a league championship series game.
And then when he did play, he wasn't very impressive in the league championship against Pittsburgh. 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. But he has turned all that around in the World Series. And should the Braves win this, he'd have to be considered a leading contender for MVP honors. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Deion not playing football during the World Series, but that didn't stop him from undertaking another task yesterday. He spent the day between games in Tallahassee at the opening of a friend's rib restaurant. Well hit down the line off the glove of Joe Carter. That's a fair ball, and there's a lot of room in foul ground. Sanders on his way to second, and that's as far as he'll get with 1 out.
Toronto loses something with defense with Carter at first base. We mentioned only 6 starts. I'm not saying John Olerud would get that ball, but it's off the glove of Joe Carter. That hop coming up, hitting on the thumb of the first baseman's mitt, and a nice play by Alomar to retrieve it in time to hold Sanders to second base.
It has been scored a double, the third Atlanta hit of the night. The hits are even at 3 apiece. Toronto leads 1-0 in the third. Terry Pendleton singled his first time up. Breaking ball inside, 1-0 on Pendleton. Down the left field line, slicing foul. Wasn't fouled by more than a few feet. Sanders will go back to second.
A fastball outside, and Pendleton slicing it foul, about 3 feet.
That average was the best in the majors this year with runners in scoring position. He's only knocked in 1 run in the World Series. To the delight of Blue Jay fans, many of them here tonight, toting their trademark Jays. Sanders taking off for third. The pitch gets through Borders. Sanders slid into third head first. And he's 90 feet away now with the game-tying run with 1 out.
We mentioned the wild pitch is a problem for Cone. And Sanders taking off on the right pitch. The splitter in the dirt. Through the wickets of Borders. Watch Kelly Gruber acting like he has a play on Sanders to keep him there.
It's Dion's 4th stolen base in the World Series in as many tries. The Braves stole 4 while David Cone was out there for 4 1/3 innings in game 2. Now the infield is in with a tying run at third and 1 out. The 2-1 pitch hit more than deep enough to get the run in as Devon White retreats to the front of the warning track. Sanders limps home from third. We're tied at 1.
A run engineered by Deion Sanders. He lopes home to tie it for the Braves.
David Justice, the batter. 2 down and the bases now empty. The shift is on again in the infield for Justice. He looks at ball 1 low. Justice out in a pop-up for the shortstop, even though Manuel Lee fielded it in shallow right center field to end the first. Two and all. The jewelry contributes to the limp. That's a lot of weight around Deion's neck to carry around as he made his way around the base paths.
Certainly doesn't hamper his speed. A double, a stolen base, and the sacrifice fly by Pendleton. Another dangerous situation for Cone. A 3-0 count now to David Justice.
With Bream on deck, Justice had the green light and sliced it foul. Here's Sid Bream. 1-1 the score in the bottom of the third. This is game 6 of the 1992 World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays will wrap it up with a win tonight. Ties him with Henry Aaron, the Braves postseason home run record. Justice hit his 6th postseason home run in game 5 in his 26th postseason game. Aaron had 6 postseason homers in 17 games.
57, 58 before League Championship Series play, and then 1969 against the Mets.
Cone has battled from 3-0 to 3-2, and the payoff pitch is a breaking ball that throws Justice for the final out of the inning. 2nd strikeout of the night for Cone. The Braves with 1 run in the third to tie it. After 3, 1-1 the score. Blue Jays scored first in the first. Joe Carter's sacrifice fly scoring Devon White. The Braves tied it in the third. First pitch of the 4th, a ball to Candy Maldonado. Maldonado with a high fly ball to deep left field. Sanders back to the warning track, to the wall. It's a home run. Just the 2nd hit of the World Series for Candy Maldonado, but both have been big. And they love it at the Sky Dome, where they're watching on the Jumbotron scoreboard. First home run of the World Series for Maldonado makes it 2-1 Blue Jays.
And before that home run, he was 0 for his last 11 in postseason play against left-handed pitching. That old saying in baseball, he doesn't get many hits, but they're all big ones, applies to Maldonado.
And it has applied to the man at the plate as well in the postseason, Kelly Gruber. Maldonado's only other hit, as we mentioned earlier, the game-winning single in the 9th inning of Game 3 off Jeff Reardon that brought in Roberto Alomar with the winning run. He's 2 for 15 in the series. That was the 16th home run of the postseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. Ties a record shared by the 1970 Orioles and the 1989 Athletics. Gruber to short. Blauser to first to get Gruber by a running step. 1 out in the 4th. 2-1 Toronto. Our blimp tonight is Goodyear Stars and Stripes from Pompano Beach, Florida. And at the controls is Captain Drew Marshall from Fort Lauderdale. Pat Borders looked at ball 1. He singled to left. His 8th hit of the World Series in the 2nd.
And by the way, the 3rd home run the Blue Jays have hit off Steve Avery. All solo shots. And coming into the World Series, Avery had given up only 1 home run over his last 37 1/3 postseason innings. He's given up 3 in over 11 in this World Series.
Home runs in Game 3 off Avery by Carter and Gruber, and despite the 2 long balls, Avery said after the game, "I pitched about as well as I can pitch." He's on the short end of a 2-1 score at the moment. Down the line, Pendleton couldn't glove it. Borders rounds first. He'll try for 2. Sanders with the throw over the head of Lemke and backed up by Bream to keep Borders at second. We'll wait for the scoring, but in all likelihood, that is another hit for Pat Borders. It is a double, his 9th hit of the series.
The breaking ball hit off the heel of the glove of Terry Pendleton. Well, the Atlanta Braves just cannot get Pat Borders out in this series. He is sizzling them.
Indeed he is. Started his professional career as a first baseman and third baseman. Said he didn't have the power to play those positions in the major leagues or the ability defensively. Thought he was going to get released in 1986, so he went to Bobby Maddock of the Blue Jays organization and said, "I'd like to become a catcher." Good thing he did.
He made 41 errors as a third baseman one year. That will drive you out of that position.
Manuel Lee out on a fly ball to right in the 2nd. He's batting with Borders at 2nd and 1 out here in the 4th. Toronto has reclaimed the lead on the home run by Maldonado here in the 4th, and unless you were Evelyn Wood, you probably didn't have a chance to digest the entire Budweiser game summary. The Atlanta run came in the 3rd. Deion Sanders doubled, stole 3rd, and scored on a sacrifice fly by Terry Pendleton. Low and away, 2 balls and 1 strike. And with 2 hits in the inning, Pete Smith is up for the 2nd time tonight in the Atlanta bullpen. He started warming up in the 1st inning when the Blue Jays sent 6 men to the plate. Fastball missed. Lee ahead, 3 balls and a strike with the pitcher David Cone waiting in the on-deck circle. Corner, and the count is full on Lee. Borders at 2nd, 1 out. 1 run in here in the 4th for the Blue Jays. They lead 2-1. Payoff pitch to Lee. Check swing, strike 3, says John Shula. And Lee is 0 for his last 11.
That is a big strikeout right there. If Manuel Lee gets on, if he walks, then you have Cone bunt them over. And Steve Avery is in a mess of trouble. Big pitch for Avery.
Lee now 1 for his last 17. Those are his numbers for the entire series. As you check other numbers from the sports world today. David Cone laid off the breaking ball. Cone bounced into a 4-6-3 twin killing. That ended the second.
David Justice very, very deep in right field. The other two Atlanta outfielders, Otis Nixon in center and Sanders, properly playing, but Justice way too deep against a left-hander like Avery.
We talked about the difficulty sometimes for pitchers to throw strikes to pitchers at the plate, and that's the problem confronting Avery at the moment. You saw how shallow Nixon and Sanders were in left and center. They pulled way over toward left. Sanders almost on the line. And Cone walks on 4 pitches. Bobby Cox, after a conversation with pitching coach Leo Mazzoni, on his way to the mound. Devon White will be the next hitter for Toronto.
Usually Bobby Cox doesn't go to the mound unless he's going to make a move. I think the first thing he said to Steve Avery, "Are you all right?" He may have noticed something. His delivery, a lot of managers will say that, "Are you all right?" It's very common, but it seemed like Cox asked Avery that in a little bit different manner then.
Cox tried to relax last night by spending time at his farm in North Georgia, about 50 miles from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Devon White, the batter, singled and scored in the first, struck out in the third. He's up there with runners at first and second and 2 down in the fourth. The Blue Jays have scored in this inning on a home run by Maldonado to reclaim the lead. It's 2-1 Toronto. The runner at second is Pat Borders. At first, David Cone. The 1-0 pitch. Line to left to hit. Sanders plays it. Borders being waved in. The throw to the plate, and he is out at home. Sanders' throw was right on the money to cut down the runner and end the inning.
The ball was hit hard. Sanders charges it. Borders is not a fast runner. And you see Berryhill off with the mask, and a quick tag nails his counterpart. On a play at the plate, once a catcher catches the ball, his best weapon to ward off the runner is his left shin guard. Watch how Berryhill uses that to spin Borders out of there. He never reached the plate.
So it's only a 2-1 lead for Toronto as the Atlanta Braves get ready to come to bat in the bottom of the 4th inning. Sid Bream to lead off against David Cone. Bream walked his first time up. Jeff Blauser to follow, and then Damon Berryhill. Batters 5, 6, and 7 due for Atlanta. Bream first ball swinging, and it's a fly to shallow left for Maldonado. Tomorrow on the NFL Today, Terry on the grounding of the Eagles offense. Wesley on the Vikings' new fearsome fivesome, plus the man who was the Cowboys back on top, Jimmy Johnson. That's all tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern on the NFL Today, the last word before kickoff. Washington at Minnesota, our feature game at 1 o'clock. And Jeff Blauser looked at a strike. He singled to left. Back in the second. Check swing. The appeal down to first. It was not a swing, says Jerry Crawford.
You may remember the last time up, David Cohn tried to come inside twice to Blauser. He has stayed away with the first.
Great play by Alomar. One hop throw, gloved by Carter for the out.
Oh, man. Ooh. What a play. Wow. In game 2, Alomar made a terrific play with a runner on second and 2 outs to save a run. And he saves a runner here. Well, that is just an absolutely brilliant play by Roberto Alomar.
He won the Gold Glove last year. You can just about book it that he'll win it this year and many more times in his career. Damon Berryhill looked at a strike. He was out on the fly ball to center his first time up. He's now 2 for 19 in the series. 1 for his last 16. And as we mentioned during Damon's first at bat, he is approaching the most strikeouts by a player in a World Series. The record is 12, set by Willie Wilson in 1980.
Willie Wilson made the last out in that World Series in the 6-game series. High fastball from Tug McGraw to give Philadelphia their only World Championship.
And that's strikeout number 11 for Damon Berryhill. The Braves go in order in the 4th. After 4, the Blue Jays 2 and the Braves 1. Another World Series moment from 1975.
Delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is tied 3 games apiece.
A great call by a great broadcaster, Ned Martin, of Carlton Fisk's 12th inning home run in Game 6 of the '75 World Series. It gave the Red Sox the win and forced to Game 7. Game 7 that year, of course, won by Cincinnati. One young man who undoubtedly was devastated as he was growing up in suburban Boston at that time about the result of that game. The new pitcher on the mound for the Atlanta Braves, Burlington, Massachusetts native Pete Smith.
Pete's 7-0 for the Braves this year. And that's in the National League Championship Series. He did work 2 games against the Pirates. This is his first World Series appearance.
Following 4 innings by Steve Avery. Roberto Alomar out on the bounding ball to second. He's 1 for 3. If you're just joining us, Toronto leads 2-1 after 4 innings. They scored in the first. Devon White started the ball game with a single, stole second, took third in a ground out, scored on a sacrifice fly by Joe Carter. Atlanta tied it up. Deion Sanders a double. He stole third, scored on a Terry Pendleton sacrifice fly. Then Candy Maldonado put Toronto back on top with a leadoff home run off Avery in the 4th. Interesting that Avery was yanked after 4 innings. The pitcher is scheduled to bat second when the Braves come up in the bottom of this, the 5th inning.
I think Bobby Cox, with everybody available for the most part, all of his pitchers.
That is a fair ball. Top spin line drive down the left field line for Joe Carter. Sanders juggled it once on the bullpen mound, and it didn't matter. It was going to be a double all the way for Carter. His first hit of the night and 5th of the series.
A breaking ball to Carter that he hammers down the left field line, just fair. May have hit the line. Nope, just fair. About 4 inches. But I think Bobby Cox's thinking on this was to just get Pete Smith through this inning and then go to another reliever in the 6th inning. The whole staff is available tonight with the exception of Tommy Glavine, possibly John Smoltz. Possibly.
Smith brought in particularly with Carter and Winfield, the big right-handed guns in mind. Carter got to him for the double. Now here's Winfield, who walked and flied to right against Avery. Blue Jays already with 7 hits. Winfield looked at a Smith fastball for strike 1. Of course, much of the reason for the low batting average for Dave Winfield in the World Series came in his only World Series prior to this year. 1 for 22 was Winfield in the Fall Classic of 1981. Not a whole heck of a lot better this year. He's 4 for 18 now. And 1 for his last 11. Because of that 1 for 7, it's just a 2-1 lead for Toronto. They could be much more comfortably ahead at the moment.
Deion Sanders has had a lot to say about this game so far. The assist, throwing out Pat Borders at the plate, and he doubled, stole a base, and scored the only run of the game for the Braves.
The 2-1 to Winfield. Dropped by Berryhill. It's a ball, 3-1. It was a close pitch, but when the catcher doesn't squeeze it, that reduces the likelihood you're going to get a strike call.
Right.
You can see Berryhill with his head twisted around. Talk with home plate umpire John Shulock about it. Smith has thrown a couple of pitches to Winfield in this sequence when the second baseman Lemke was just about standing on second base, trying to keep Carter close. That time he stepped off as Lemke moved to the bag. Full count now.
There was another time right there. Mark Lemke going over. Joe Carter taking his lead, and the whole right side was open. Dave Winfield hits a lot of balls to the right side, too.
Now the payoff pitch. Fouled. Winfield just got a piece of that one off the end of the bat. Three balls and 2 strikes, 1 out. Carter the runner at second. We're in the top of the 5th. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. If Toronto wins tonight, they are baseball's world champions in 1992. Carter taking off for third as Winfield sends it right back here.
That got you up, didn't it?
It did indeed. I was ready for it, though. That was a harmless fly. I usually said when it didn't clang off my hand.
Yeah, it was harmless because it went above us, not in rattling around in the booth here.
We had Buzz Hannon ready to make the play. Happy birthday to Buzz, by the way.
Those are the buzzwords today. Happy birthday.
The payoff pitch again, lined into left center on the run. Nixon made the catch. Carter a long way toward third, but he'll get back. Nixon had to take a couple of steps to get his balance back after having the long run to make the nice running catch in the gap when that appeared to be ticketed for Dave Winfield's first ever World Series extra base hit.
We have had a chance to see 2 center fielders who are among the best in baseball. Otis Nixon covering a lot of ground to make that catch. Nixon, by the way, led all major league outfielders with averaging 3 putouts a game. Gives you an idea of how the Atlanta pitchers pitch also. A lot of fly ball pitchers. A lot of guys who throw high fastballs, and it's very difficult to put the ball in play on the ground against the Atlanta staff.
Very difficult to catch the ball. Candy Maldonado hit his last time up. It was back into the bleachers in left field. And it was the difference in the ball game. At the moment it is. The leadoff home run by Maldonado in the 4th broke a 1-1 tie, made it 2-1 Toronto. It's still 2-1. With Maldonado at the plate in the 5th, Carter at 2nd and 2 down. Slowly to short. Blauser throws him out, and Pete Smith survives the 5th unscathed. The Braves dodge another bullet. Halfway through game 6. Toronto 2, Atlanta 1.
Steve Avery was removed from the game after pitching 4 innings, and part of the reason might have been that in the 1st inning he had like a little splinter underneath that thumbnail that was bothering him, and I think it particularly affected the grip of his curveball because he didn't have as good a command of that tonight. So I think it was a reason of that, although he told Bobby Cox after the 1st inning it was okay, but that plus the Blue Jays right-hand hitters forced Bobby Cox to make that move a little sooner than he normally would.
And he'll pinch hit for Pete Smith in all likelihood here in the 5th. Mark Lemke fouled the first pitch of the 5th inning away for strike 1. Lemke out on a fly ball to center field his first time up. Pete Smith is in the on-deck circle at the moment, but during the break between innings we saw Lonnie Smith with a bat in his hand. Otis Nixon will bat 3rd here in the 5th inning. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. They've out-hit Atlanta 7-3.
If Bobby Cox is thinking about a pinch hitter, I don't think he'll use Lonnie Smith here in the 5th unless Lemke's on base. With 1 out, nobody on, I don't think you want your best pinch hitter hitting in that situation.
2 balls and a strike on Lemke. There is action in the Atlanta bullpen. Charlie Leibrandt is warming up, so if they do hit for Pete Smith, Leibrandt will be the Atlanta pitcher when we go to the 6th inning. The last couple haven't been close from Cone. 3 balls and a strike. David Cone pitched only 8 games for the Blue Jays during the regular season. His 3-1 pitch is ball 4. Well, now because it's a bunting situation, they're not going to hit for Pete Smith. Lemke at first. That's just the 2nd walk issued by Cone tonight. And here is Pete Smith. Pete Smith is not a good hitter. He is 1 for 26 during the regular season. He's sacrificed 3 times. Gruber is almost on top of him. Smith took a fastball for a strike.
You want to bunt the ball to Joe Carter. Joe Carter is not adept at playing first base. He has a strong throwing arm, but he's not a regular first baseman. So if you bunt the ball, you want to bunt it to first. Plus, Kelly Gruber, the 3rd baseman, is about 40 feet away.
Gruber already creeping in as Smith takes a ball low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. They appealed down to first. It was not an attempt at a bunt by Smith. Jimmy Williams, the 3rd base coach, threw the signs for both Lemke and Smith. Bunted foul. Now it's 1-2. Tim, might Bobby Cox be guilty of trying to get a little bit too much out of Pete Smith? You mentioned the rested pitching staff. Now you're in a situation where if he fails to bunt, he has to go up there and hit. Where if a Treadway failed to get the job done with the bunt, he'd be at least more likely to deliver a hit.
Yeah, he has 2 ways to go. He elected to go with Smith, and it is a problem with the count 1-2. You are wasting an out. The one thing you want to do is keep in mind is if Lemke, as the runner at first base, Joe Carter, if he breaks too soon, try to steal second base.
Lemke has no stolen bases this year, regular season or postseason.
See, that's why Cone threw over there then. That throw to first base is to hold the runner. But Joe Carter, we mentioned, not a lot of experience at first base. If he breaks too soon, you go as far as he does. And by the time Cone releases the ball, you could possibly steal a base.
Smith turns to bunt with 2 strikes and fouled it off. He's out. So that's a strikeout. The first out of the inning. And the bullpen is silent, so Pete Smith will go back out to pitch in the 6th inning. Bobby Cox had other options available to him. Decided, because it was a bunt situation with Lemke the lead man on, to let Smith bunt him over, but he couldn't get the job done. Now the runner is at first with 1 out for Otis Nixon, who has twice bounced to short.
Well, there's some things in baseball that are blatantly wrong. I can't see where that's blatantly wrong one way or the other. It's up to Pete Smith to get the bunt down. You gotta execute.
Nixon slaps it foul.
I think going one way or the other, it doesn't matter whether in that situation, I don't think, whether you bunt or not. I mean, Pete Smith, a very capable pitcher, strong toward the end of the season. I think the decision was wrong, but the decision was right. The execution was wrong.
The 0-1 to Nixon. Just missed. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. The Braves batting in the bottom of the 5th. This is Game 6 of the 1992 World Series. If the Blue Jays win tonight, they are the world champions. The Braves win. Game 7 is tomorrow night here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Quick throw. Lemke just back ahead of the tag from Carter. Popped up along the line. Lee drifts over and makes the catch. They say he was in fair territory. That's the 2nd out of the inning. The Goodyear blimp Stars and Stripes is high overhead tonight. Stars and Stripes is the most recent addition to the fleet, continuing a tradition since 1926. Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, Jim Cott, and Pat O'Brien. Delighted to have you with us from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Lemke, the runner at first with 2 outs, and Deion Sanders is at the plate. Certainly playing Sanders to pull in the infield. Roberto Alomar, the second baseman, can almost shake hands with Joe Carter, and he's on the edge of the outfield grass.
Braves with their first 2 hitters, it's very, very difficult to defense Otis Nixon and Deion Sanders. They spray the ball around. But obviously the scouting reports have shown that he pulls the ball on the ground.
Deion has done that twice tonight, once for an out to the first baseman, the other for a double off the glove of Joe Carter that continued down the right field line. Cone ahead of Sanders 0-2. He's thrown 71 pitches tonight, and a bit better ratio balls for strikes tonight than for David in Game 2 of the World Series, when he threw 46 balls and 47 strikes. Of course, he walked 5 in that outing, over 4 in the 3rd innings.
David Cone had a start this year with the New York Mets where he threw 166 pitches. His next start, he threw 133. 300 pitches, right about 300 pitches in 2 starts, leading the major leagues in strikeouts for the 3rd consecutive year.
He's ahead of Sanders 1-2. Lemke is not on the run. Dion slaps it back to the screen. You mentioned that Cone only started 8 games for the Blue Jays during the regular season. If he is the winning pitcher tonight, he would become the first pitcher ever to win the final game of a World Series for a team for which he had pitched fewer than 10 regular season games. Rent-a-pitcher indeed. David has called himself the rent-a-pitcher, the hired gun. Up the middle, a hit. Lemke will continue on toward third and get there without a throw. Deion Sanders continues to be a major player in the 1992 World Series. He's 2 for 3 tonight. Now 9 for 14 lifetime against David Cone.
This is only his 4th start, and he's been on base 10 times. This ball right back under the glove of David Cone, and we mentioned that Alomar, the top of your screen there, playing him to pull. Lemke moving to third easily.
That sign is true. They can't get Dion out. 2 for 3 tonight is Dion. He's 8 for 15 in the World Series. He's at first, Lemke at third with 2 down in the home half of the 5th. The Blue Jays lead 2-1.
One thing that was important on that play, Mark Lemke going to third base, that clears second and gives Sanders a chance to steal a base. He already has 1 stolen base. Usually better not to try to go to third with 2 outs unless you're sure, but it was a big play possibly in this situation.
Pendleton took a ball low and in. Terry's working on a perfect night. He singled in the 1st inning. Delivered a sacrifice fly in the 3rd that brought in Sanders with the only Atlanta run of this game. Time called. Borders and Cone will be joined at the mound by pitching coach Galen Cisco. And there is action for the first time tonight in the Jays bullpen. Todd Stottlemyre is the right-hander. David Wells the lefty. Gaston, at some point tonight you might have noticed a band-aid on his finger. We saw the band-aid on Avery's thumb. Gaston, along with all of the players, coaches, and managers on each side, has had to sign 100 dozen baseballs over the course of this World Series. He said he wanted to sign as many as he could tonight because he doesn't plan on being back here tomorrow night to sign any more. Pendleton, the best in the majors this year with runners in scoring position. He's up there with a runner at third and one at first as well. 2 outs in the 5th, 2-1 Toronto. The 1-0 pitch is a strike. Coneheads, but they waved in disgust at that call. You'd think that the Coneheads would be cheering for David Cone, but they seemed upset that it was called a strike. Sanders takes off. The pitch is a ball, and Dion has another stolen base. His 2nd tonight, his 5th in as many tries in the World Series.
That is the 3rd stolen base of the night for the Braves. Make that the 2nd stolen base, both by Deion Sanders. That gives the Braves 15 in the World Series. They've only been caught 2 times.
So now 2 men in scoring position. The tying run at third. The go-ahead run at second. The 2-1 pitch. Check swing and a ball low and in. On the appeal to third, Joe West deemed that it was not a swing. Still 3-1.
Did he go around? No, not even close.
Many of the fans here now on their feet. As Pendleton bounces one foul past Pat Corrales in the first base coach's box, it's a full count.
Like a slider. I think the Braves are using the last sign. David Cohn staring off those signs of Berryhill, and you saw him wave his index finger around. I believe they're using the last sign. That's a splitter.
On the 3-2 pitch, he struck him out. Foul tipped into the mid of borders for the final out of the inning. The Braves leave 2 men in scoring position. They've stranded 5 after 5. Toronto 2, Atlanta 1. We'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station. Back in Atlanta, the first pitch of the 6th inning by Pete Smith, a ball to Kelly Gruber, who is 0 for 2 tonight. Gruber borders in lead, due up in the 6th. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. Gruber pulls one well foul and left. Tim, it's really been a game of missed opportunity for each side. The Toronto Blue Jays have stranded 6 base runners through 5 innings. They've had a man thrown out at the plate. They've hit into a double play. And the Atlanta Braves just left 2 more in scoring position. They've left 5 on base in all tonight.
Of course, you need the 2-out base hit. I think the big scoring opportunity for Atlanta was the 2nd inning. That's when Green led off of the walk. Blauser led off of the base hit. Runners at first and second. They plated no one.
There's only been 1 perfect inning worked by a pitcher in this ball game. That was Cone in the 4th, and he needed a great play by Alomar on the ground ball up the middle hit by Blauser to have a 1-2-3 inning. One and 2, the count on Gruber. That's low. Certainly times have changed over the last couple of years for the Atlanta Braves. So much so that Pete Smith recalls when he made his major league debut here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in 1987. There were 2,400 people in the stands. That's well hit down the left field line, but Sanders has room at the 3:30 mark in the corner. Gruber now 0 for 3 tonight, 1 for 18 in the series. He's the first out of the 6th inning. Pat Borders is singled and doubled, 2 for 2 tonight. It's particularly impressive what Borders has been able to do in this series, given that the men around him haven't hit at all. Kelly Gruber and Manuel Lee have combined 2 for 35. Borders is between the 2.
Also, when you consider the fact that Borders caught 137 games this year, the most of any catcher in the American League.
Smith has jumped ahead of him, 1 ball and 2 strikes. 1 out, 6th inning, 2-1 Toronto in Game 6 of the World Series. Blue Jays lead the best of 7 series 3-2. John Shulock thought about calling it a strike and thought better of it. The crowd thought it was. It's 2-2.
A very, very close pitch. The fastball just off the plate.
And the breaking ball is just off the plate as well, prompting more groans from the assembled masses. Now the 3-2 pitch. Fastball, popped it up. Bream and Berryhill with room. It's Bream for the second out. Manuel Lee 0 for 2 tonight, 1 for 17 in the series. Fly to right in the second. Looked at a called third strike in the fourth. He's facing Pete Smith for the first time tonight. Line down the right field line, a fair ball, and a base hit for Lee. Just his second of the series. He slips down, but the throw went to second. And he's back to first with 2 down. That's the 8th Toronto hit of the ballgame.
You might think, well, that's just an insignificant hit. Well, it's not. With 2 out and nobody on, a base hit will clear the pitcher, David Cone in this case, and the leadoff batter, Devon White, will lead off the 7th inning. That is provided that Cone doesn't get on. That's why Manuel Lee plays it safe and goes back to first.
He needs new brakes. David Cone bounced into a double play in the second, walked in the fourth. Late swing and a foul out of play. David Cone honed his hitting skills in his backyard in Kansas City as a youngster. He and his brother put up lights in their backyard so they could play wiffle ball at Conway Park. A lot of David's pitches look like pitches you see in wiffle ball, with the ball dancing all over the place.
Pete Smith throwing to first base. It is remote that Manuel Lee will try to steal a base. If he's thrown out, then you lose the value of the 2-out base hit. And David Cone would lead off in the 7th inning, either he or a pinch hitter. See, Smith's dividing his attention to first base. You need not do that in this situation.
Smith, when he was drafted by Philadelphia originally, a very hard thrower. Bobby Cox says he remembers games early in Smith's major league career when he struck out 12. Since arm trouble started to plague him, he doesn't throw quite as hard, but he's been effective, that's for sure. And Cone is out on the ground ball. That ends the inning. Bottom of the 6th upcoming at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. The Blue Jays 2 and the Braves 1. This World Series moment, Game 6, 1986.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Mookie Wilson with the ground ball through the legs of Bill Buckner, allowing Ray Knight to score. As the Mets came from behind to win Game 6, forcing a Game 7, in which New York also won.
In that inning, 2 outs and nobody on, and the Mets trailing by 2 runs. And remarkably, they won it.
David Justice 0 for 2 tonight. He has popped to short and struck out, facing David Cone, who's gone all the way for Toronto. Cone pitching with a 2-1 lead in the bottom of the 6th. Justice, then Bream and Blauser. It is 4, 5, and 6 coming up for Atlanta. Braves have had at least 1 base runner in every inning except the 4th. They've only scored once, and that was in the 3rd. A ball and a strike on Justice. The infield shift is on as Justice looks at ball 2. Manuel Lee, the shortstop, once again pulled over to the right side of the infield. They haven't done that every time Justice has come up in the series, but just about every time.
Not against the left-hander David Wells. But a good time to do it here. Carter on the line at first base. '78 hits to right field this year, only 22 to the left side, 17 to center field. You can be a pull hitter and not hit the ball on the ground, but the thing about Justice, he pulls the ball on the ground.
Borders points at the base umpires at the slightest flinch by the hitter. That time Justice moved ever so slightly, and Borders was pointing down to third. John Shulock chose to ignore it. And the count is full on the leadoff hitter in the 6th inning. He fought it off. It's still 3-2. As I mentioned, Justice was in the middle of this alleged dissension on the Braves ball club. It's been much chronicled in the Atlanta papers the last couple of days. Bobby Cox said before the game there's nothing to it. He thinks his team is one harmonious lot. Payoff pitch again. Well hit to right. Winfield makes the play. Justice out on the line drive for the first out of the inning. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
When you think about it, who says you have to have a harmony to win? You look at the Oakland Athletics back in 1972, 73, 74, 3 consecutive world championships. They had fights all the time.
The man at the plate, Sid Bream, is one who was quoted as saying he agreed with what David Justice said about the Braves' frame of mind in Game 4. He thought they were flat too. There have been reports that Justice and Deion Sanders have been feuding. Their relationship is cool after Sanders splashed Justice's fiancée with water after the championship game, the 7th game of the National League Championship Series against Pittsburgh. Cohn's 1-1 pitch to Bream. Inside, 2 balls and a strike. Sid has walked and fly to left tonight. Three balls and a strike. There is action in the Atlanta bullpen. Charlie Liebrandt is throwing again. And Bream walks. Ball 4 apparently low. Bream walks for the 2nd time. Cohn has had much better control tonight. And that's only the 3rd free pass that he has issued. John Sullivan, the bullpen coach, getting off the phone. There will be action out there in a moment. Jeff Blauser, 1 for 2. He should be 2 for 2. He singled in the 2nd. Last time up, he had a smash up the middle, and Roberto Alomar made a great diving play going to his right. And he threw Blauser out. He laid off the breaking ball that missed. Bobby Cox said the most important thing for the Braves tonight as they go to the plate is to make Cohn throw strikes. Usually, in the words of Cox, that slider is not a strike.
Be patient at the plate and be aggressive on the bases.
There is a strike. 1-1 the count. The action in the Toronto bullpen is the duo that was up earlier, the right-hander Todd Stottlemyre and the lefty David Wells. One out, a runner at first. 6th inning. Toronto leads 2-1. Again, Borders pointed down at first. Again, Jerry Crawford said no swing. The count is 2 balls and a strike.
3 straight sliders to Jeff Blauser. He has had 2 very dangerous at-bats against Cohn. And obviously, he is picking him up very, very well tonight. Even his foul balls have been hit hard.
Cohn has gone to 3 balls. With the last 3 hitters, he's 2-1 on Blauser and in with a strike. Among those in attendance tonight, the boxer Evander Holyfield, and he's here despite the protests of his trainers. He's been in Houston working out for his upcoming fight against Riddick Bowe, but he's been flying back and forth to see the Braves games in the postseason. He's from Atlanta. The 2-2 is a fly ball toward the Braves bullpen. A long run for Winfield, and he can't get there. Chant on the tomahawk chop, but you can sense it's a bit half-heartedly. His anxiety is starting to set in. The reality that the Braves lost tonight ends the season, makes Toronto the world champion. Again out of play, first base side. And as we're in the 6th inning, that possibility becomes a bit more of a possibility.
You wonder how long Cito Gaston's going to go with David Cone. The Toronto bullpen has just been superb throughout the World Series. They have allowed no runs in 13 1/3 innings. The bullpen.
This will be pitch number 98 of the night from David Cone. He struck him out with the off-speed pitch. Blauser out in front of it for the 2nd out of the inning. 6 strikeouts tonight for David Cone.
That is the slider. You see that tightly wrapped pitch that gets Jeff Blauser right on the corner. Could have been just out of the strike zone, but a tough pitch to take with 2 strikes.
Two outs in the 6th inning. 2-1 Toronto. Sid Bream aboard at first for Damon Berryhill. Berryhill's 0 for 2. He has flied to center and struck out. He strikes out again. He will tie the World Series record for strikeouts in a series. Big swing and a miss. 1-1. Just 3 for 34 from the left side of the plate is Damon Berryhill. The home run, of course, was the game winner in Game 1 off Jack Morris in the 6th inning. It provided Atlanta with all of its runs in their 3-1 win. Fastball straightened him up. 2 balls and a strike. This could well be David Cone's last game in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform. He's a free agent at the end of the year. There's been a lot of speculation that he might go back to New York as a member of the Yankees and enjoy his playing time in New York. Enjoyed the city. Berryhill with a pop-up. Lee out. Maldonado in. It's Lee making the play. That certainly caused an anxious moment or two for folks throughout Canada. We head to the 7th. Still 2-1 Toronto.
This city named Atlanta back in 1845, but 9 years before that, the name of this city was Terminus, Georgia. And the Braves are hoping that their World Series dreams are not terminated this evening.
In the interest of equal time in this political season, the name Toronto is from the Huron language. It means meeting place on a great lake. Devon White to right field, and David Justice. 1 pitch and 1 out for Pete Smith in the top of the 7th. Blue Jays can terminate the Atlanta season and their own, become world champions with a win tonight, and they lead 2-1 as they bat against Smith. He's pitched 2 innings of shutout relief, 2 1/3 now with a fly ball off the bat of White. Mike Stanton is throwing in the Atlanta pen. Pete Smith is scheduled to bat second in the bottom of the 7th. Lemke will lead off, then the pitcher, then Nixon. Alomar 1 for 3, a single to right in the 3rd. He stole second in that inning. In the hole, Blauser. Fine effort, but he had no chance to get Alomar, who's 2 for 4 tonight. He came into the night 2 for 18. And he has equaled his hit total in this one game.
Blauser shading Alomar up toward the middle. And Alomar bouncing one. And once it takes that high hop that Blauser fielded, no chance to get Alomar. And he will be running here. It's a matter of what pitch. He already has 1 stolen base on the evening.
Alomar at first with 1 down in the 7th for Joe Carter. He had a sacrifice fly in the 1st, but delivered the 1st run of the game. He bounced to 2nd in the 3rd inning. Doubled down the left field line off Pete Smith in the 5th. Base hit by Alomar, the 3rd allowed by Smith, the 9th hit of the night for Toronto. Make a play, Tim.
We've already discussed that.
Yes, we have.
We mentioned Steve Avery earlier with that power leg kick. Pete Smith throws hard without that powerful left leg going up. He has a slide step toward home plate. So he is more difficult to run on than a guy like Steve Avery.
Alomar needs 1 stolen base to tie Ron Gant for the postseason record for most steals without being caught. He's going for it, but the pitch was fouled away.
Ron Gant with 11 consecutive stolen bases. Alomar 2nd, Ken Griffey, Otis Nixon with 8.
Stolen bases have certainly been a major part of this postseason. Ron Gant has not seen much playing time of late. He's been the odd man out with Sanders playing, and Gant's been upset about his lack of playing time. Oh, 2 the count on Carter. Alomar at first with 1 out in the 7th inning. 2-1 Blue Jays. Breaking ball pulled down the line. Great backhand play by Pendleton. They get the out at 2nd and cannot turn the double play. Oh, that appeared to be headed for the corner, but Pendleton was able to spear it and erase the lead runner, Alomar. They had no chance to double up Carter.
Not only does he make the play, but he turns to his right. It's tougher to throw from that angle. Well, that is a terrific play by Terry Pendleton to get the lead runner. You can see from this play why he is a 3-time Gold Glover.
Pendleton would love, obviously, for the first time in his career to be in the winner's circle at the World Series. He's played in 3 World Series prior to tonight and has been on the losing team all 3 times.
The ominous record holder, Fred Merkle, who was in 5 World Series without being in a winner. Fred, of course, the author of Merkle's Boner back in 1908 when he failed to advance on a base hit by a teammate. They got the ball, ran and touched second base for the force out back in 1908.
Fred played on 5 without winning any. Pee Wee Reese played on 5 losing World Series teams before finally breaking through with a win in 1955. Pete Smith working to Dave Winfield with a count of 0-1. Very high, not particularly deep. Otis Nixon waves Sanders off. That ends the inning. The Blue Jays have now left 8 men on base. 7th inning stretch. Game 6, 2-1 Blue Jays. A look back at another Game 6, this one from 1977. Yankees and Dodgers at Yankee Stadium. Reggie Jackson with 3 home runs, to help the Yankees win Game 6. The first was off Bert Hooton. The second off Elias Sosa, and this one in the 8th inning off Charlie Huff. The only other player to hit 3 home runs in a World Series game, Babe Ruth, back in 1926. Jackson's 5 home runs in a series, still the record. Yankees won that game 8-4. Won the series 4 games to 2. Toronto trying to win this series 4 games to 2. They have a 2-1 lead in Game 6. And a new pitcher on the mound as the Braves come up in the 7th. Todd Stottlemyre on relief of the starter David Cone.
It is his 4th appearance, and he has worked exactly 1 inning in each appearance.
Mark Lemke, the first batter. And he took a breaking ball for strike 1. And a fastball for strike 2. Lemke 0 for 1 with a walk his last time up against Cone. Jeff Treadway has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher Pete Smith. The 6 Toronto relief pitchers who have appeared in this series have combined for 13 1/3 scoreless innings. They've allowed only 5 hits in 43 at-bats. Off-speed pitch. Lemke fouled it. Borders throws down to first. Actually appeared that Lemke missed it. That's why he had to throw down to first. Sounded like a foul tip, but was not. The first run in the ball game in the first inning, Devon White scoring on a sacrifice fly by Joe Carter. Atlanta tied it when Deion Sanders doubled in the 3rd, stole 3rd, and scored on a sacrifice fly by Terry Pendleton. Candy Maldonado has the biggest hit of the ball game, a home run leading off the 4th against Steve Avery. That made it 2-1, and it's still 2-1 in the bottom of the 7th. With 1 out and the bases empty, and Jeff Treadway is batting for Pete Smith. First at bat of the World Series for Treadway. He sliced 1 out of play for strike 1.
Since Dave Winfield made the last out, what Cito Gaston could have done when he brought in Stottlemyre, he could have put Stottlemyre in the number 4 hole and inserted John Olerud in the number 9 hole, and that way you tighten your defense. Olerud could have moved to first base, Joe Carter to right field, but I guess Cito is thinking that it's so close a game, I'll keep my best lineup in there and not subject Olerud to a possible confrontation with Mike Stanton later on.
Stottlemyre's 0-2. Well hit, but played on a hop by Alomar. 2 down. Well, we mentioned at the outset they got David Cone to help them get over the hump, to win the AL East, to win the ALCS, and to win the World Championship. That was the goal from day 1 in this season. Toronto wanted to win the World Championship after 9 consecutive winning seasons, entering 1992. And Cone did his part tonight, that's for sure. 6 innings. 4 hits. He allowed only 1 run, walked 3, and struck out 6. Otis Nixon went 0 for 3 against Cone. Otis showed bunt, had to go leaping out of the way. Fastball inside.
Normally a 2-out, nobody on bunt is a bad play. But if you have as many stolen bases as Nixon does, you can turn a bunt single into a double. That's why it's a good play for a guy like Nixon.
Two balls, no strikes. Nixon looks at a strike, 2-1. Action again in the Toronto bullpen. The lefty David Wells continues to throw, and he has been joined by Dwayne Ward. Two-1 pitch. Little looper, base hit. Over the head of the shortstop Lee and into left field for Otis Nixon. He's 1 for 4 tonight. And as you mentioned, look out for the stolen base. Cito Gaston on his way to the mound.
May see the left-hander here to try to get Deion Sanders out of the game. Not only that, it could make it more difficult for Nixon to steal off the left-hander. That's what he's going to do.
David Wells summoned with 2 down in the bottom of the 7th. A runner at first. Will be back in just a moment. Ron Gant has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for Deion Sanders. Bobby Cox countering the move made by Cito Gaston, which brought a left-handed pitcher, David Wells, into the ball game with a runner at first and 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th, and with Toronto leading 2-1.
David Wells, his 4th start, and we mentioned that the Toronto reliever started this inning going 13 in the 3rd scoreless innings. The Braves have not scored against a Toronto reliever, and Ron Gant will try to put an end to that. Remember, an inside hitter. David Wells with a good slider, a good overhand fastball. Ron Gant loves the ball from the inside of the plate.
Deion Sanders finishes the night having gone 2 for 3 with a single, a double, 2 stolen bases. And he scored the only run on the board for Atlanta to this point. Otis Nixon, the runner at first base, with 2 down in the 7th. Wells the slide step and a fastball on the corner for strike 1 to Gant. Gant 1 for 6 in the World Series. Nixon back to first. Gant had his problems at the plate in the League Championship Series as well. He had just 182. Going 4 for 22. One of those hits was the memorable grand slam in Game 2 off Bob Waugh. Wells again to first, a good move, and just back with the hand is Otis Nixon. That includes 5 for 5 in the World Series for Otis Nixon. Keep it away from Gant. That time Wells missed. 1-1.
Kelly Gruber is on the line at third base to protect against the extra base hit. It makes a lot of sense. A left-hander, right-handed pull hitter.
The 1-1 appeared to be out of the strike zone. Gant fouled it off. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
25 hits to right field this year after only 9 hits to right field last year. That's 34 hits in 2 years to the right side of the ballpark for Ron Gant.
Gant had a disappointing regular season. He'd been a 30-30 man with 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases in both 1990 and 1991. This year he only hit 17 home runs. And in recent days he's been somewhat of a forgotten man for the Atlanta Braves as Deion Sanders has taken center stage. 2-1 Toronto in the bottom of the 7th. 2 outs, Nixon at first. He is running. Gant took a ball. Borders throw. Got him.
Credit David Wells with this caught stealing, keeping Nixon so close and giving Borders a chance to nail Nixon, and he did.
In a series dominated by pitching, Game 6 no exception. 2-1 is the score in favor of Toronto as we head to the 8th inning. The big hit in the ball game, the solo home run by Candy Maldonado in the 4th.
And this was a big play too, as Otis Nixon is nailed at second base for the first time in this postseason. Not only is that play important, but Ron Gant now has to lead off the bottom of the 8th inning. In all probability, Cito Gaston will bring in Dwayne Ward, who has not yielded a home run to a right-hander all year long.
No swing on the first pitch of the 8th, says Jerry Crawford. He's had a busy night on appeals. The new pitcher for Atlanta is Mike Stanton. Pete Smith did his job. He pitched 3 scoreless innings of relief after coming on for Steve Avery. Ron Gant remains in the game in left field.
I think strategically that was one of the better managerial moves by either side, bringing in David Wells. Not only to pitch to Gant, you get Sanders out of the game and you throw out Nixon and have Gant leading off against a right-hander. You're really doing three things with that one move.
Over the last few years, even though Toronto has won 3 division titles in 4 years under Cito Gaston, this man has come under almost constant criticism from the media, from many Blue Jay fans.
And you wonder why.
Based on what we've seen in this series, you'd have to say as a strategist, he'd get high marks. This is a man who in 1989 didn't want to become the manager. The Blue Jays ownership and management had made the decision to fire Jimmy Williams after a 12-24 start in '89. Cito Gaston was the hitting coach. Pat Gillick, the general manager, and Paul Beeston, the president of the Blue Jays, went to Cito Gaston's house and said, "Uh-oh, I think I might be getting fired." And instead, they offered him the managing job. He said, "No, Al Widmar's been on the coaching staff longer than I have. John Sullivan, why don't you give it to them? I really don't want to do it." And they said, "Well, we would appreciate it if you would. It'll just be for a few days." So he took over. The Blue Jays started winning almost immediately. It's been more than just a couple of days. Maldonado, a base hit. He's 2 for 4 tonight. And he owns the biggest hit in this ball game, the home run leading off the 4th off Steve Avery. That gave Toronto a 2-1 lead. It's still 2-1 here in the 8th.
Just ekes it through on the left side. By the way, that home run by Maldonado, the 9th different player that has homered. Actually, 8 different players have homered for the Toronto Blue Jays in this series. Maldonado with 2 during the ALCS, but his first in the World Series.
He's at first with nobody out in the 8th. The Blue Jays up to an even 10 hits now. Kelly Gruber at the plate. He's 0 for 3. Pendleton in on the grass at third, expecting the bunt. It's a good bunt. Pendleton with a strong throw to Lemke to get the sliding Gruber, who went in head first. It's a sacrifice, and Maldonado is in scoring position with 1 out.
Mike Stanton almost made that very difficult for Terry Pendleton. Watch how he blocks Pendleton out of the play. Pendleton forced to barehand the ball. There's Stanton. Pendleton barehanding it, and Berryhill going to third because nobody was there to cover. That being the catcher's responsibility. If he can't field the ball, he just keeps going to third base. But that could have been a very difficult play, and Pendleton made it look easy.
Now they will make the smart move and pitch around the sizzling Pat Borders to set up first and second with 1 out, and a double play possibility with Manuel Lee scheduled to bat next. Borders 2 for 3 tonight for Cito Gaston.
Unless Manuel Lee hits into a double play, I think we're going to see Ed Sprague in this inning. And excuse me, Sean, if Ed Sprague comes up and they bring in the right-hander, you'll see John Olerud. So the Blue Jays, even though the bottom of the order is coming up, they realize that Dwayne Ward's going to come in the game in the bottom of the 8th inning. So a bunt in that situation makes all the sense in the world because you're going to pinch hit for the pitcher anyway.
Manuel Lee digs in. Derek Bell has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher. Critical part of the ball game right here, with Atlanta trying to keep it a 1-run deficit in the 8th inning. The Blue Jays with a chance to build on a 2-1 lead with runners at first and second and 1 out. Lee pops up the first pitch. Bream has room in foul territory. 2 down. Stanton up to 17 2/3 consecutive innings without allowing an earned run in his career in the postseason. There'll be a conference at the mound to discuss how they should approach Derek Bell.
And Stanton has held opposing batters hitless in 21 at-bats with runners in scoring position. That is going back to last year against the Minnesota Twins.
Bell, as you saw on his line graphically a moment ago, hasn't appeared very often in postseason, but when he has, things have happened. He was on base for Sprague's home run in Game 2. He also scored a big run in the championship series against Oakland. To the right side, Bream goes to the shortstop, Blauser. That ends the inning. The Blue Jays squander another chance. They leave 2 men on base. They've stranded 10. Bottom of the 8th. 2-1 Toronto. Another World Series moment from Game 6 a year ago.
Into deep left center for Mitchell, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
The Twins forced a Game 7 last year when in the 11th inning Kirby Puckett hit a solo home run off Charlie Leibrandt for a 4-3 win. Of course, Jack Morris pitched 10 shutout innings in Game 7 to give Minnesota the World Championship. Dwayne Ward on in relief for Toronto. The Blue Jays 6 outs away from their first World Championship. Ward will face Ron Gant, who was at the plate when Nixon was thrown out trying to steal, ending the 7th. Then Terry Pendleton and David Justice, batters 2, 3, and 4. The hard-throwing right-hander misses inside with ball 1.
Dwayne Ward has won 2 of the 3 games that Toronto has won. He has struck out 5. He has walked no one, allowing only 1 hit in 2 1/3 innings.
Gant to right, sinking fast. Winfield. Did he catch it? Yes, he did. Great tumbling catch by Dave Winfield in right for the first out of the 8th inning.
On the catch, Winfield digging up the turf as he drops to his knees and makes the play. Fine play by Winfield.
Ron Gant bidding for the leadoff hit. Had it taken away by Winfield. Particularly a fine play given his lack of outfield time this year. Terry Pendleton, the batter. 1 strike the count. Pendleton drove in the only Atlanta run in this game with a sacrifice fly in the 3rd. He singled in the 1st, struck out in the 5th. All of his at-bats tonight against the starter David Cone. Ward watches Pendleton line 1, just fouled by a couple of feet and left. So they're hitting line drives and just missing. And their bids for a base hit here in the 8th inning.
We talked about how right-handers have not homered against Wayne Ward this year. Left-handers have homered 5 times against Wayne. The premier setup man for Tom Hinkie, who is now warming for Toronto, even though Ward himself had 12 saves.
And he could well be the #1 closer next year as Hinkie is a free agent this offseason. Pendleton fouls one weakly toward his own dugout. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 1 out, bottom of the 8th. 2-1 Toronto. If the Blue Jays win tonight, they are the world champions of baseball in 1992. The 1-2 from Dwayne Ward. Outside. The last time prior to the World Series that Dwayne Ward pitched in this ballpark, he was a member of the Braves in 1986, and they were on their way to a last-place finish. Chuck Tanner was the manager. Ward was traded to Toronto for Doyle Alexander. The Braves turned around and traded Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz. Pitch. He struck him out. The foul tip squeezed by Borders for the 2nd out of the 8th. And they're hanging on every pitch. Some 40,000 gathered at the Sky Dome in Toronto tonight to watch on the Jumbotron scoreboard in center field. David Justice 0 for 3 tonight. Fastball missed outside. 1-0 on Justice. That's low. Now Justice has almost the entire left side of the infield to shoot for, because they do use the shift again with Lee, the shortstop, on the right side of the infield, and Gruber appears to be guarding the line. He's not as close to the line as you would ordinarily be guarding the line, but he's a lot closer to the line than he has been the other times Justice has been up with the shift on.
Now the Blue Jays would love for him to do that, to take a shot to left field. Just for a base hit with 2 out and nobody on. That's one of the reasons the shift is on. A little harmless single does nothing. At least that's the Blue Jays thinking in this situation, and that's proper thinking. Justice is thinking long ball.
Ball 3, 3 balls and a strike. Atlanta has had only 2 hits since the 3rd. They've had only 4 base runners since the 3rd. Todd Stottlemyre, Derek Bell, and Ed Sprague left to right. Lonnie Smith, Game 5's hero. Ball 4. The tying run is aboard with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th.
One thing you want to do if you're an outfielder in this situation is to protect against the extra base hit with Justice at first. And for that reason, the outfield is very, very deep against Sid Green. They'll give him the single. They don't want the extra base hit.
Toronto with 2 outs and a runner at first. In the bottom of the 8th, Sid Green, the batter. He looked at a fastball for a strike. Sid has walked twice tonight and flied to left. Bear in mind the fact we mentioned earlier, Sid Green has never driven in a run in World Series competition. Tonight is his 12th World Series start, and that's a fly ball to left, not deep. Maldonado makes the catch. The Toronto Blue Jays 3 outs away from the World Championship, and they love it at Sky Dome. On to the 9th, 2-1 Blue Jays. 9th inning of Game 6. Toronto leads 2-1. They lead the series 3-2. All 3 of the Toronto victories in this series have come by 1 run. The top of the order coming up for the Jays in the 9th. Devon White, 2 for 4 with singles in the 1st and 4th. He scored in the 1st inning. Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter to follow against Mike Stanton, who's pitched one scoreless inning. Line and caught. Lemke ranging to his left, put it away for the first out of the ninth.
Devon White has been hitting the ball hard all night. He hits this one hard to the left of Lemke, and Mark grabs it.
Roberto Alomar, the batter. He swings at the first pitch. Seems like the Blue Jays are anxious to get to the bottom of the ninth and take their chances with a one-run lead.
I was thinking the same thing, even though White and Alomar hit their balls fairly well. Sometimes you're so consumed with getting there to end it, you fail to concentrate on scoring another insurance run or two. But this game right now, taking on the same tones that the Pittsburgh-Atlanta game had, Game 7 10 days ago. Atlanta hoping it ends the same way.
Joe Carter, the batter, 1 for 3, a double, and a sacrifice fly back in the first inning. 2 pitches and 2 outs. The third pitch popped up. It'll be close. No play for Bream. It's a few rows back into the crowd of 51,763 here tonight. It's very quiet again. In the bottom of the ninth, the Braves have batters 6, 7, and 8 in their batting order due up. Jeff Blauser, Damon Berryhill, and Mark Lemke. Still plenty of firepower available to Bobby Cox off the bench, including Brian Hunter, who you saw a moment ago with the bat in his hand, and Lonnie Smith.
You saw Terry Pendleton off the line at third base. Sid Bream the same at first. I think with 2 out and nobody on, this is a time where you protect against the extra base hit.
One ball and 2 strikes. Two down and the base is empty in the top of the ninth. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. Base hit, fair ball into the left field corner. Carter on his way to second with his second double of the night.
I think that's a mistake by Terry Pendleton. With 2 outs, with nobody out or 1 out, you can understand him on the fat part of the field. Right now, you got to be on the line with Joe Carter facing a left-handed batter. Pendleton wasn't, and it's a double for Carter.
Potentially a very big double if the Blue Jays can get him in. It's going to knock Mike Stanton out of the ball game. Mark Wohlers will be the new pitcher. Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, Jim Cott, and Pat O'Brien at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, Game 6 of the World Series. The Blue Jays with a win tonight wrap up the World Series, and they lead 2-1. With 2 outs and Joe Carter at second in the top of the ninth inning. Mark Wohlers on in relief to pitch to Dave Winfield. Wohlers throws very hard in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. They had him on the radar gun at 100 miles per hour. And that first pitch to Winfield clocked at 97.
Just getting loose, huh?
Let him warm up a bit, and then he might really let one fly. First base is open. Maldonado on deck. Popped up and drifting out of play. Wohlers with power has jumped ahead of Winfield 0-2. Moments ago, Mike Stanton visibly upset in the dugout as he was relieved. Crowd trying to spur Wohlers on to the strikeout as Stanton looks on from the dugout. He pitched an inning and 2/3 and is responsible for Carter.
If he keeps throwing that hard, it's going to be almost impossible for Winfield to pull the ball.
They're playing him toward right in the outfield. He throws hard. Winfield did pull it, but it's foul. And into the Toronto bullpen. Tom Henke, as you see, is throwing down there. In all likelihood, he will come on to start the ninth and try to save it for David Cone. Lonnie Smith getting loose. And certainly looms as a distinct possibility for a pinch hitting role in the bottom of the ninth. When Blauser, Berryhill, and Lemke are due. Winfield pops it out of play. The previous pitch, which Winfield pulled into the bullpen, was 95 miles per hour. The way Wohlers is throwing, that might be a changeup.
I don't know if you noticed that gesture by Jimmy Williams before we went to Bobby Cox. Jimmy Williams is responsible for the infielder's movement. And from that nodding of the head, I wonder if he's looking back on playing Pendleton on the line and thinking that that would have been the best thing. He's responsible for line placement.
0-2 with 2 outs and Carter at second. 2-1 Toronto in the ninth inning. Bounced up the middle. Blauser throws him out. The Blue Jays have left 11. We go to the bottom of the ninth. Blauser, Berryhill, and Lemke do. The Blue Jays 3 outs away from the World Championship.
Game 7 of the National League Championship Series, 2-1 Pittsburgh. Ten days ago,
Francisco Cabrera, who has not appeared in the World Series, with a 2-run single with 2 outs in the ninth, to put the Braves into the World Series. They'll need another rally of that type in the ninth to force a Game 7. They're down 2-1 and batting against Tom Henke.
It's not surprising that Henke is in there, but it is surprising that John Olerud is not at first for defense and that Joe Carter's not in right. That's your best defensive alignment, and Cito Gaston has opted not to use it.
Reminiscent of 1986 when John McNamara left Bill Buckner in. Some said they wanted to let Buckner be on the field when they won the World Championship to celebrate. He was a veteran, but all year long they had sent Dave Stapleton in for defense for Buckner in late innings. Buckner made the error. The Red Sox never won the championship. Blauser through the hole. Gruber was playing the line. And the tying run is aboard with nobody out in the bottom of the ninth. Jeff Blauser 2 for 4 tonight.
You see Gruber on the line, and this two-hopper gets through. Damon Berryhill with no sacrifices all year. And he'll be sacrificing here, at least trying to.
Berryhill has only sacrificed 7 times in his entire career. That's a good bunt. Henke has to go to first. To Alomar covering. It's a sacrifice for the first out of the bottom of the ninth. Now the tying run is in scoring position. Mark Lemke is due, but Lonnie Smith is in the on-deck circle. A tremendous roar as Smith is introduced. He was the hero of Game 5. His grand slam turned a 3-2 Atlanta lead into a 7-2 Atlanta victory. It came at the expense of Jack Morris in the 5th inning. Smith just 2 for 12 in this World Series. It is his 5th World Series. And as the crowd chops and chants, Francisco Cabrera has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher. Cabrera, the hero of the dramatic Game 7 victory in the playoffs against Pittsburgh, has not appeared in the World Series.
And once again, the wild pitch. could play a part. Hinkie, to be effective, has to keep it down.
First pitch, a strike over the outside corner at the knees. The one-strike pitch. Fouled away, and Smith is in the hole, 0-2. We're in the bottom of the ninth. The Toronto Blue Jays lead 2-1. Smith at the plate with rally caps and evidence in the Atlanta dugout. One out. Jeff Blauser, the tying run at second. Now the 0-2 pitch. Just missed. Hinkie took something off it and missed inside. Now the 1-2 pitch. Check swing and a ball high. 2-2. Bounced foul. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. In the dirt. Blocked by Borders. It scooted through his legs, but he was able to squeeze it before it got behind him.
And this was the pitch we were talking about, that splitter in the dirt. A terrific play by Pat Borders.
Smith has worked the count from 0-2 to 3-2. Blauser at second with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. If they win this game, they win the World Series. Straight back.
That was hittable. Hinkie has made some very difficult pitches against Smith, and now Borders wants to talk. You don't want to try him on another pitch like that. That ball was hittable. Smith fouling it back, just missing it.
Pitch of the at-bat is ball 4.
Talk about a gutty at-bat by Lonnie Smith.
He got behind 0-2, then walked on the 8th pitch. So the winning run is at first, and the man who produced the miracle 10 days ago will step into the spotlight again. He'll have to wait as Galen Cisco goes to the mound to talk about how they will pitch to Francisco Cabrera.
A lot of things come to mind right now, and one is the trail runner, Lonnie Smith. Bobby Cox has said that he is the toughest base runner trying to take a second baseman out of a double play. On a ball that allows Smith to get to a middle infielder, they're going to have to be careful they don't overthrow it first to allow the tying run to score. Cabrera, a fastball hitter.
First pitch to Cabrera, a ball low and away. Francisco was traded to Atlanta in August of 1984 by the Blue Jays. Tying run at second, winning run at first with one out in the bottom of the ninth. A double play ball would make the Blue Jays the world champions. Cabrera takes a strike. Tom Henke, Toronto's all-time save leader, trying to record the biggest save of his career in what could be his last game in a Toronto uniform. He's a free agent at the end of the year. The 1-1 to Cabrera. Ball 2. Cabrera at the plate. Otis Nixon on deck. The 2-1. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Chopped foul. In a sport in which the average salary is $1 million, Francisco Cabrera makes $148,000, which he uses to support a wife and 2 children in Atlanta, his mother and father, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters in the Dominican Republic. It's unlikely that he was in the spotlight once when it mattered most. Miraculous that he's here twice. And still alive at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
You can see the split fingers going into the glove of Tom Henke from that center field camera.
Steve Avery, the starting pitcher for Atlanta tonight. He would be the losing pitcher if the score remains this way. The 2-2 to Cabrera. Back to the screen again. Made the catch. He started in and then it almost went over his head. Cabrera had a rising line drive. Maldonado came in, then had to leap at the last moment to snare it.
This ball hit like a tracer to left field. Watch Maldonado come in and now leap. And you could see Manny Lee in front of the, on that shot, leaping with Maldonado.
Otis Nixon, the batter. 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. Runners at first and second. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. Swing and a miss by Nixon for strike 1. He's 1 for 4 tonight. He singled his last time up.
2 outs, a runner at second base and first base. Infielders reminded to knock the ball down if they can't make a play to save the run.
Strike 2. Otis Nixon has only 6 career home runs, one of them off Tom Henke. The Blue Jays 1 strike away from the World Championship. The 0-2 pitch. Slap to the left side, a hit. Bowser's being waved in. Maldonado's throw is over everything. It's a tie ball game. Otis Nixon took an 0-2 pitch into left field.
Again, trailing 2-1. This ball goes about in the same area that Francisco's Cabrera's ball went 10 days ago. Blauser. Safe. Tie ball game.
Now the winning run is at third for Atlanta in the bottom of the ninth as the Braves try to force a Game 7 tomorrow night. It's a single and an RBI for Nixon. No error charged on the play. They ruled that Nixon took second on a throw to the plate. Ron Gant, the hitter. He entered the ball game as a pinch hitter and line to right. He had a hit taken away from him on a nice tumbling catch by Dave Winfield. The last inning. Pulled way foul and out of play. 1 strike on Gant. Charlie Leibrandt warming up in the bullpen. When we go to extra innings, he will be the pitcher for Atlanta. He was the losing pitcher in Game 6 a year ago against Minnesota. The 0-1 to Gant. This is certainly a great chance for Gant to erase his memories of the 1992 postseason. They have not been pleasant. In the World Series, he's 1 for 7. The 1-1 pitch, blocked by Borders. He has to block everything with the winning run on third base. Lonnie Smith, the runner at third. The 2-1 pitch, way outside. Gant will be followed by Terry Pendleton should Gant reach.
So therefore, no chance that Henke is pitching around Ron Gant.
Now the 3-1 pitch. Hop foul straight back and out of play. Henke with a payoff pitch to Gant. Fly ball, left center. Devon White is there to make the catch and send the ball game into extra innings. 1 run for the Braves in the ninth. 2-2 the score as we head for the 10th inning. If Game 7 of the 1992 World Series is necessary, we'll have it for you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time here on CBS Sports. The starting pitchers would be Tom Glavine for Atlanta and Juan Guzman for Toronto. Notice Nixon appropriately in the spotlight of that promo. His single drove in the game-tying run to make it 2-2 after 9. And as we go to the 10th, Charlie Leibrandt becomes the 5th pitcher of the night for the Braves. And there's a new second baseman in the ball game as well. Rafael Belliard takes over. He played only 1 inning at second base during the regular season. He's celebrating his 31st birthday tonight.
Charlie Leibrandt's first appearance in the World Series. The last time that he appeared in a World Series was Game 6 of last year when Kirby Puckett hit a home run in extra innings to win Game 6 for the Minnesota Twins. I have never seen a more disconsolate player than Charlie Leibrandt was after that game. Chance to atone.
Andy Maldonado, Kelly Gruber, and Pat Borders to bat for Toronto in the 10th. The Blue Jays were 1 strike away from the World Championship. Now they'll have to go to extra innings to earn it. Maldonado. He's had an eventful night. 2 for 4 at the plate. His home run in the 4th inning made it 2-1. Score remained that way until the run for Atlanta in the bottom of the 9th. Maldonado nearly misplayed the ball hit by Cabrera in the bottom of the 9th. Then airmailed the catcher Borders with his throw. Trying to cut down Blauser at the plate. Blauser scored the run that made it 2-2. Leibrandt quickly ahead of Maldonado. No balls and 2 strikes.
Leibrandt's best pitch is a circle change. It is similar, if you followed the earlier games, similar to Tommy Glavine, the left-hander for the Braves. Circle change. He holds the thumb and the forefinger together and throws the ball with the last 3 fingers.
Kelly Gruber on deck. The 1-2 pitch to short. Played nicely on a hop by Blauser. 1 out in the 10th.
Leibrandt, a performer in postseason play in 1985. Member of a World Championship team that year with the Kansas City Royals.
And he was the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the playoffs that year when Kansas City finished off its comeback from 3 games to 1 down to beat the Toronto Blue Jays. Kelly Gruber lines a base hit into center field. So the Blue Jays have the go-ahead run aboard with 1 out. Gruber has just his 2nd hit of the World Series. He's 2 for 19. And a threat to run with above average speed. Pat Borders, 2 for 3, a single, a double. Last time up he was intentionally walked. 2-2 the score in the top of the 10th. Toronto up to 12 hits. The Jays out hitting Atlanta 12-7, and all night long we've been talking about the squandered opportunities for Toronto earlier in the night. Those look not much bigger now. They've left 11 men on base.
I think if Gruber does run, it'll be part of a hit and run. I wouldn't work a straight steal in a situation like this. Borders been too hot with a bat. The thought being that with Borders hitting .474, 2 for 3 tonight, that he could drive Gruber to third instead of taking a chance for him stealing second base.
Leibrandt to the plate. Borders with a fly ball. Ron Gannon left. 2 down. In the bottom of the 10th against Tom Henke, the Braves have the meat of their order due up. Terry Pendleton, David Justice, and Sid Bream. They have Jeff Reardon throwing in their bullpen. Lee Brandt, the 5th Atlanta pitcher of the night. Steve Avery started, went 4, allowed the 2 Toronto runs. Pete Smith pitched 3 shutout innings. Mike Stanton, an inning and 2/3 of scoreless relief. Mark Wohlers faced 1 man and got him out. Now Lee Brandt, who will pitch next to Pat Tabler. Manuel Lee was the scheduled hitter. Cito Gaston elected not to hit for Lee in the 8th when he batted with 1st and 2nd and 1 out. But at the time, Gaston had a 2-1 lead. He was more concerned with defense, and Lee is an excellent glove man at short. Now he's thinking about offense. And Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, is out to the mound to chat with Lee Brandt.
Jimmy Key is up and throwing for the Toronto Blue Jays. I was looking down there. He had his jacket on and he was rotating his left arm. And he is up and throwing. Tom Henke has not gone 2 innings all year. In 57 appearances, in 55 of those 57, he went 1 inning, even though he has gone 1 2/3 in this series. 1 time. That was game 3. I beg your pardon, that was the American League Championship Series in game 3.
Tabler up in a 2-2 ball game in the 10th with 2 outs and Gruber at first. Lee Brandt starts him with a fastball for a strike. He, the only lefty still available to Cito Gaston. Mike Timlin and Mark Eichhorn have not appeared out of the bullpen for Toronto tonight.
Atlanta, on the other hand, has Jeff Reardon, John Smoltz, Marvin Freeman, Tommy Glavine scheduled for tomorrow night. They also have David Need, the young right-hander, who has not appeared in any game yet.
He would probably be the last resort for Bobby Cox. Need a rookie and a late addition to the World Series roster. Tabler 5 for 14 lifetime against Lee Brandt, including a home run. Gruber back to first. And Ed Sprague is moved into the on-deck circle. The pitcher is due up next. That's why they got Key up in a hurry. And as we mentioned a moment ago, Pendleton, Justice, and Bream, the scheduled trio of Brave swingers in the bottom of the 10th. Lee Brandt to the plate with the 1-1 pitch. Check swing. Lee Brandt has it. On to the bottom of the 10th. 2-2 the score. The Atlanta Braves scored a run with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th to tie the game at 2 and force extra innings. That run in the 9th by the Braves ended the Blue Jays bullpen record streak of 15 1/3 consecutive scoreless innings. That is a record for World Series play by a bullpen, but it ended with the Blue Jays 1 strike away from the World Championship. Pendleton, Justice, and Bream due up. Justice and Bream, left-handed hitters. Pendleton, a switch hitter. Jimmy Key warming up in the bullpen. He's a left-hander.
Pendleton, one of 7 switch hitters in the lineups tonight, and that is a World Series record. Never have so many switch hitters appeared in a World Series game.
Well, a number of records have been set in this series, and the way it's going, there'll probably be at least 1 or 2 more before we're finished.
Yeah.
Tom Henke, Vic optimized for the game-tying run, facing Pendleton, who's 1 for 3 with a first-inning single. He had a sacrifice fly for an RBI in the third. He struck out twice since then. Strike on the outside corner. One and one on Pendleton. Alfredo Griffin is the new shortstop for Toronto as they hit for Manuel Lee in the top of the 10th. Pendleton started to pull the trigger and laid off. The pitch low and in. 2 balls and a strike. Again, the Blue Jays are guarding the lines. It didn't pay off when Jeff Blauser bounced a leadoff single through last inning and scored the tying run. It pays off this time as Carter was perfectly positioned for Pendleton. 1 out in the bottom of the 10th.
There's Joe Carter in your picture, and he makes a relatively easy play on the Pendleton high chopper, and that looks like it's going to be all for Tom Hinkie.
It will indeed. Jimmy Key trots in to become the new Toronto hurler. We'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station.
And Mark Eichhorn. Of course, Jack Morris pitched 2 nights ago in an emergency. I would imagine Cito Gaston could call on Morris. Jimmy Key 1-0. He won game 4 up in Toronto.
He called it his proudest moment as a member of the Blue Jays. Now he has perhaps a chance to be on the mound when they win their first World Championship. He was emotional when he came out of that ball game after 7 2/3 innings, tipping his cap because he said he realized that it was probably going to be his last outing in a Toronto uniform. He's another free agent at the end of the year.
Tell you, statistically, you might question this move because David Justice unusually is a much better career hitter against left-handers than he is right-handers.
49 points better. Big swing and a miss for strike 1. Justice 0 for 3 tonight with a walk in the 8th inning off Dwayne Ward. He'll be followed by Sid Bream. 2-2 the score. 1 out, bases empty, bottom of the 10th. Check swing and a foul to the Toronto dugout. Key quickly ahead, no balls and 2 strikes. The 0-2 pitch. Bounced down the line and foul. Jimmy Key scheduled to lead off the next inning. Cito Gaston did not make a double switch.
Yeah, you could have brought in John Olerud, moved Carter to left field and taken Maldonado out of there and allowed Key to hit in the number 6 spot. Number 5 spot for Maldonado.
Would have made him the 6th batter in the next inning. 1-2 now on Justice. Through Key, but Griffin is playing him perfectly. The shift pays off for Toronto. The shortstop on the right side of the infield, and the ball came right to Alfredo Griffin for the 2nd out of the 10th.
Actually, Griffin was shielded from that ball. He took 1 step to his left, and then he went back to his right. The ball right back through Jimmy Key, and Alfredo makes the play.
Sid Bream 0 for 2 tonight with 2 fly balls to left. He has also walked twice. Jimmy Key was murder on lefties during the regular season. He held them to a 176 batting average and only 2 home runs. Only Mark Langston fared better against left-handed hitters among all left-handed starters in baseball. Chopped down to first. Carter flips to Key, and the Braves go in order in the bottom of the 10th. We had the 11th. The Blue Jays coming up in a 2-2 ball game. Welcome back to Game 6 of the 1992 World Series from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. 2-2 the score. The Atlanta Braves tied the score on a base hit by Otis Nixon with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. That brought Jeff Blauser in from second. Nixon has said several times that he thinks he is enjoying this postseason more than anybody else participating because he was not able to take part in the postseason a year ago, serving a drug suspension.
How about this? Jimmy Key's going to hit for himself. So it looks like Cito Gaston has determined that Jimmy Key, for the most part, is a starting pitcher in this role. At least until the next time the pitcher hits.
Key, then the top of the order, Devon White and Roberto Alomar against Charlie Leibrandt, who's pitched 1 scoreless inning. He allowed 1 hit in the 10th. This is the first major league at bat for Jimmy Key. He's been in the majors since 1984.
The last time a relief pitcher, and that's what Key is tonight, hit this late in a game in this ballpark, Rick Aguilera made the last out last year in the 12th inning with the bases loaded. Aguilera, the stopper for the Minnesota Twins.
Jimmy Key was an outstanding hitter in college at Clemson. His first team All-ACC player as a pitcher and as a DH.
Asking a lot of him, though, wouldn't you say?
Might be a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
Hasn't been in college since 1982. He had a career 300 average for the Clemson Tigers. A pop-up. Bream has it. Jimmy probably had some batting practice yesterday. The Toronto pitchers did hit during the workout, and the man who threw batting practice to them was the general manager, Pat Gillick, a former minor league pitcher. That was very sore when we saw him in the clubhouse before the game today. There's Pat, the general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. Peter Widrington on the left, chairman of the board. Devon White, the hitter. 0-1 on White. He's 2 for 5 tonight, singles in the first and 4th innings. He scored a run way back in the first. Leibrandt misses up and in. 1-1.
That was for effect. Rarely does Charlie Leibrandt come inside to a right-hander, especially in a game situation when he intentionally throws a strike inside. He'll go back outside to White.
Leibrandt ahead of White 1-2. With 1 out in the 11th inning. 2-2 the score. Roberto Alomar is on deck. It hit him. The crowd thought John Shulock was calling him out on strikes. Instead, he was indicating that the ball brushed Devon White, and he has first base with 1 out.
Leibrandt coming inside just a little bit too much, and it hits the left thigh of Devon White. White not trying to get out of the way, but he tried enough, in the opinion of John Shulock. The ball just hitting his left thigh.
He's at first and a threat to run with Roberto Alomar up. Leibrandt goes to first. Devon White stole his first stolen base of the World Series back in the first inning. It set up the run he scored in the first. Alomar 2 for 5. The Blue Jays have, I'm sorry, Tim, the Blue Jays have had a hit in every inning tonight except this, the 11th.
I'm going to say Leibrandt has 16 pickoffs on the year. 16. An excellent move to first base. 12 pickoffs last year.
He goes over to first again. Matter of fact, the Toronto Blue Jays have had exactly one hit in every inning prior to the 11th, except the 4th, in which they had 3 hits. It's Terry Mulholland of Philadelphia. Alomar squared to bunt and took the first pitch to him from Leibrandt low for ball 1.
That was a show-me bunt right there. No way is Alomar bunting with 1 out and White at first base. Maybe a hit and run here. If you're the runner at first base in a hit and run situation, you have to make sure the pitcher pitches. The responsibility is on the hitter to make contact.
Leibrandt will again go to first to hold White close. To the plate and lined into center field, a hit. White to second, and he'll stop there. Roberto Alomar with 3 hits tonight. He started the night with only 2 hits in this series. First and second and 1 out for Toronto in the 11th.
Alomar waits on the changeup. He gets it and delivers. I don't think there is any way that Bobby Cox is going to allow Leibrandt to face Joe Carter. Jeff Reardon is warm in the bullpen. Tough decision right here.
Made particularly tough by Reardon's failures in this series.
Well, if you're not going to bring Reardon in this situation, why is he warming up?
That's the question that I was going to pose to you. Joe Carter will face Leibrandt. 1 strike on Carter, who has 2 hits tonight, a pair of doubles. Outstanding speed on the base pass for the Blue Jays. Devon White at second, Roberto Alomar at first, and 1 out. Joe Carter had a sacrifice fly back in the first inning. That was nearly 4 hours ago. Leibrandt nearly threw it into center field. Belliard had to leap to field it and reach over the head of Devon White at the same time. It was an awkward twist towards second by Charlie Leibrandt.
By the time he turns, he sees that White is there, and Belliard has his left arm serving as a necklace for Devon White.
The 0-1 to Carter. Blowing in, 1 ball and 1 strike. In his career against Charlie Leibrandt, Joe Carter is a .275 hitter, 11 for 40. He has never hit a home run off Charlie Leibrandt. hit, but well fouled.
Marvin Freeman, Reardon, Need. One would think that they would go to those three right-handers before Smoltz gets a call.
Only Reardon throwing at the moment, and he's ready. Bobby Cox has made the decision to stick with the lefty Leibrandt to face Carter. The runners take off. Carter lifts one to center, not deep. Devon White jogs back to second as Nixon makes the catch for the second out. We're in the 11th, 2-2 the score. Bobby Cox has Jeff Blauser, Damon Berryhill, and Rafael Belliard scheduled to bat in the bottom of the 11th inning. Bobby Cox aware of all the stats, and he knows that Dave Winfield is a .302 lifetime hitter against Charlie Leibrandt, including 4 home runs in 53 at-bats against Leibrandt. Tonight, Winfield's 0 for 4 with a first inning walk, and now he's 4 for 21 in the series.
Winfield, a very good off-speed hitter. Can understand why Winfield hits Leibrandt well. Leibrandt is not a hard thrower. He relies on his changeup. Winfield will get either the fastball or the changeup. Leibrandt does have a curveball, but you don't want to throw anything but your best in this situation.
Changeup for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. Leibrandt looked White back towards second. Belliard wasn't very close to the bag. Dave Winfield has only driven in 1 run in this series as he tries to erase the painful memories of his only previous World Series experience in 1981. All the bad memories would go away with a hit right here. In the dirt, blocked by Berryhill. 2 balls and a strike.
Winfield with runners in scoring position, 1 for 7. He's 0 for 3 tonight. And you mentioned Winfield trying to erase past World Series. That's what Charlie Leibrandt's trying to do too.
Winfield has ended 3 innings tonight with the hit by Alomar here in the 11th. The Blue Jays have had at least 1 hit in every inning. They have 13 hits in all. But they've left 12 men on base, had a runner thrown out of the plate, and hit into a double play. And now Leibrandt is even with Winfield at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Fastball slicing the corner. Right there.
Two the score with 2 men on, 2 outs, and a count of 2-2. In the 11th inning of Game 6 of the World Series. 2-2 pitch. Just missed. Low and away, and the count is full. And now the runners will get the jump with the 3-2 pitch upcoming and 2 outs. The runners go on the 3-2 to Winfield. Down the line, a base hit into the left field corner. White has scored. Alomar comes around. The ball gets away from Gant. It's a 2-run double for Dave Winfield. And a 4-2 Toronto lead.
This is the first extra base hit of the World Series ever for Dave Winfield. Boy, did he save the right time to get it. Toronto up by 2.
Winfield had come to the plate 44 times in World Series play without an extra base hit before that one. A 2-run double driving into Von White and Roberto Alomar, and the Blue Jays are ahead again 4-2. The base hit by Winfield, the 14th Blue Jay hit of the night. He's in scoring position for Candy Maldonado.
And we might add that that is exactly what Winfield hit. He hit a changeup, the off-speed pitch. We talked about his prowess with the straight change. Lee Brand had to go to his strength, but Winfield was stronger.
And for the second year in a row, Game 6 agony for Charlie Lee Brand. Certainly, Bobby Cox's decision to stick with Lee Brandt to face Carter, Winfield, and now Maldonado is a clear indication that he is a little bit gun-shy about using Reardon.
Yep.
Given Reardon's problems earlier in this series.
Jeff Reardon gave up 2 hits, and both were game winners.
Those hits, the game-winning home run by Sprague, the 2-run homer in Game 2 that gave Toronto the 5-4 win. And the hit in Game 3 by Maldonado, the man at the plate now, in the 9th inning, with the bases loaded and 1 out. It gave Toronto the 3-2 win in that ballgame. The 2-2 pitch. Popped up. Rafael Belliard on the outfield grass. Ends the inning. But the Blue Jays get 2 huge runs on Dave Winfield's first ever extra base hit in the World Series. They're 3 outs away again, and will return after this word from your local station. Jeff Blauser, Damon Berryhill, and Rafael Belliard, the scheduled 3 for Atlanta in the bottom of the 11th. The Braves will need to dig into their bag of tricks again. They scored a run in the bottom of the 9th to force extra innings. They'll need 2 to keep it alive in the bottom of the 11th. They're ready in Toronto to have the biggest party that city has ever seen. A lot of the Braves were irritated when in Thursday morning's paper the Blue Jays celebratory parade route was printed in the newspaper. They might bring those parade plans back out of the drawer again. Not much left on the bench for Bobby Cox. Brian Hunter and Javier Lopez, pair of right-handed hitters, and that's it.
Remember, again, 10 days ago, the Braves trailed by 2 in that bottom of the 9th inning. And it was Jeff Blauser who scored the tying run in the 9th inning tonight.
Jimmy Key with a chance to earn his 2nd win of the series, and who would have thought that when this ball game began. Facing Jeff Blauser. Line to left. Here we go again. Blauser started the 9th with a base hit and scored the game-tying run. He starts the 11th with a base hit. That'll bring the tying run to the plate.
So Blauser starts it off again. Talk about an uphill battle. Damon Berryhill is not a strong hitter from the right side of the plate. Rafael Belliard is on deck. He is not a strong offensive hitter. But if Berryhill can get on, then Belliard will be allowed to bunt him over.
Up the middle. Bad hop, and Griffin couldn't glove it. Blauser continues to third. He'll get there without a throw. Had he fielded it, it was a perfect double play ball with Berryhill running, but it bounced up at the last moment. Griffin couldn't handle it. Now the tying run is aboard at first base. John Smoltz running for Damon Berryhill with nobody out.
The ball came up on Griffin. Watch how it scoots along, and right there it comes up and hit him in the thumb of the glove. It's going to be an error, but it was a tough hop. Blauser goes to third on the play. And Belliard, I would imagine, will still be bunting because only the runner at first matters.
It is an error charged to Griffin, the first Toronto error of the night. Rafael Belliard with his first at bat in this World Series. Appearing in his 4th game prior to tonight, he has come in for defense. He does bunt toward first, and it's a foul ball.
If you remember in that NLCS Game 7, 9th inning, Jose Leaned, the sure-handed second baseman of the Pirates, made an error that led to a run when the Braves scored 3 times in the bottom of the 9th to win it.
Belliard hit just .211 during the regular season. He squares to bunt again. This time it's in play. The runner holds at third. Key to Alomar covering for the first out. But now the tying run is in scoring position. Blauser still at third. Smoltz has moved up to second.
And a nice bunt by Belliard. Jimmy Key thought about second. You can see him looking at second base. And now he goes to first.
Brian Hunter, hitting .250 in the World Series. He's 1 for 4. His one hit a single. He drove in a run with a sacrifice fly earlier in this series. The Blue Jays lead 4-2. 1 out, 2 men in scoring position in the bottom of the 11th. And Borders out to the mound to discuss the strategy with Hunter, who's dangerous, particularly against left-handed pitching. He hit 12 of his 14 home runs during the regular season off lefties, and Hunter averaged a home run every 13 times up against left-handed pitching in the regular season.
Yeah, he only started against right-handed pitchers 8 times this year. You can see he is much better against left-handers, 90 points better this year. But I guess Cito Gaston is going with the experience of Jimmy Key.
Keys first pitch, a ball to Hunter. Hunter was 1 for 3 against Jimmy Key in Game 4. That one hit was a bunt single. Off the end of the bat, down to first. Carter makes the play for the second out. A run scores. It's 4-3 Toronto. And now the tying run is at third base. But the Braves are again down to their final out. And again, it will be Otis Nixon, who singled with 2 outs and 2 strikes the count in the bottom of the 9th to drive in the game-tying run. It was Jeff Blauser who made it 2-2, and we went 2 extra innings.
And Cito Gaston wants to talk to Jimmy Key. It is doubtful that he will take him out of the game. I think he wants to remind the corners, Joe Carter and Kelly Gruber, and Jimmy Key, the pitcher, that Nixon will bunt. That's what makes Nixon, as a batter, with a runner on third and 2 outs, most dangerous because of the possibility of the bunt or the infield hit. John Smoltz represents the tying run. Well, we're going to go to the right-hander.
Mike Timlin will be the new pitcher for Toronto when we come back.
Mike Timlin pitched 1 inning in Game 5. That was the 7th inning, if you remember. And what pressure on this young man just to get one out. Jimmy Key was taken out of the game, we think, because Otis Nixon is a much better hitter against left-handed pitching. Mike Timlin will be pitching to Nixon, and interestingly, Nixon got the hit to tie the game in the 9th inning from the left side. And there they are, the numbers for Otis Nixon.
So that's why they brought Timlin in to switch Nixon around.
A lot of things run through a manager's mind here. Otis Nixon, as a left-handed batter, gets down to first a lot quicker than he does from the right side. He's a better bunter as a left-handed batter. If the ball is hit to an infielder, they better hurry.
Nixon 2 for 5 tonight, including the RBI single, with 2 outs and a count of 0-2 in the bottom of the 9th that drove in Jeff Blauser to make it 2-2. Mike Timlin saved only 1 game this year. He has only 4 major league saves. Now he's on to save the biggest win in Toronto Blue Jay history, with a tying run at third and 2 down in the bottom of the 11th. 4-3 Blue Jays. John Smoltz, the pinch runner at third. Timlin. Nixon bunts. Timlin on it. Throws to first. For the first time in history, the World Championship banner will fly north of the border. The Toronto Blue Jays are baseball's best in 1992. Dave Winfield, the game-winning hit. Jimmy Key, the winning pitcher. Mike Timlin, the save. How unlikely was that final pitching scenario? All 4 wins in this World Series for Toronto by 1 run, including Game 6, 4-3, the final in 11. In only their 16th year as a Major League franchise, the Toronto Blue Jays have won the World Championship. Oh, Canada. What a series.